for the duration of the meeting. If everyone would please rise for the invocation and the pledge. Heavenly Father, we ask that you watch over us. Everyone is having times of trouble right now, and we all have times of where Thanksgiving are in order. And we thank you for the courage to get through the former, and we appreciate the latter. We ask that you guide us through this meeting and in all things we do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Trosclair? Mr. Navy? Mr. Harding? Mr. Michel?
Here.
Mr. Amade? Ms. Domain? Mr. Darren Guidry? Mr. Babin? Mr. Dirk Guidry? Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you. And I'd like to call the North Terrebonne Recreation District meeting to order. Item number 1 is to conduct a public hearing in connection with the proposal of certain tax election propositions, and that is calling a special election to be held within the boundaries of the district to consider a tax proposition and authorize the purpose for the revenues derived from that tax, making application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Hold on, it's a public hearing first. And there are some speaker cards here. Mr. Wayne Thibodeau. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, sir. Wayne Thibodeau. I live at 2603 West Main Street in Millersville. All right.
There you go. Thank you.
I live at 2603 West Main Street, Gray, Louisiana. My name is Wayne Thibodeau. And Mr. Chairman and council members, I guess I'm back. I won't say the same thing I said to you long ago when you first considered this item, but I will say, procedurally speaking, I do think you're wrong in the way you went about doing this. So I'll say that as I've said previously. In reading the process verbal, or what I think you're proposing to put before the voters, you did a good job in confusing us. I'm not clear on exactly what will appear on that March 26th ballot, if that's the date it will be placed on the ballot. And so I am actually urging and encouraging and asking the voters in Recreation District 1, Recreation District 2-3, Recreation District 8, and Recreation District 9 to resoundingly oppose this initiative that you're putting forth. Rec 1 has a 7 mil levy at this point. 2-3, I believe, is 5. So 2-3, your taxes or your property taxes will go up. It will be higher. Rec 8, I believe, is 9 mils. So the amount of money that they will save, or if you look at it that way, the amount of money that will be reduced in property taxes is minimal. And so the other rec district, I believe Rec 9 has the highest, maybe around 14 or 15 mils. So there's really not a lot to gain. And so what we will be losing is local control and the ability to do what we're doing now, which is taking care of these buildings, providing recreation for our young people, and doing a good job of maintaining the grounds and the structures. And just one other thing before I sit down, in terms of your reference to RS 334562, it says that any recreation district created under the provisions of subsection A of this section shall constitute a body corporate and shall have the power and the right to incur debt and enter into contracts and do and to do and perform any and all acts in its corporate name which are necessary or proper for carrying out the objects and purpose for which the recreation district is created. And they've done that. They've levied the mills on themselves, they've approved the mills on themselves, and they're successfully operating these buildings. And they're successfully operating recreation programs. But you, in your infinite wisdom, has actually usurped the power and authority given by state statute and decided that you want to create a super district. And what we will lose, local control, and you'll end up appointing some elite folks to this super board, and very few of us will have an opportunity to serve our own constituency. See, right now, I can go knock on the door of any board member in Rec 1. I know where they live, I know their address, and I can have a conversation with them. I'm not sure that'll be the case once you appoint that so-called super board.
Motion extended by Mr. Babin. Second by Mr. Guidry. All in favor? Any
And
opposed?
finally,
Continue, please, sir.
yeah, finally, I'm about done. 4563, which is a second part of that 4562, it said the object and purpose of the rec district created under this 334562 shall be to own and operate playgrounds and other facilities, or generally to engage in activities which would promote recreation and any related activity designed to encourage recreation and promote the general health and well-being of young people. Rec 1, Rec 2, 3, Rec 8, and 9 are doing that presently and doing a very good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thibodeau. I appreciate you coming, and I'll comment after everyone is finished. Mr. Wilfred Joseph? Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Wilfred Joseph. I live at 102 Octavia Street in Shreveport, Louisiana. And I don't think I need to redo what Mr. Thibodeau had just said, but our concern, too, is the legality of this proposition you all are putting forth. And as a concerned citizen, I want to say this. As a boy, I was born and raised on Johnson Ridge. We used to jog to the gym, play ball, and jog back home at night. Did it day after day. So the recreation department is very important to me in the communities I live in. We don't understand what's going to happen when you all try and make this a super district. Are we going to lose our representation? Are the kids in our community still going to be able to go to the gym and play basketball? We're concerned that over time you all going to let our gyms expire and just not fund them anymore. Take the money out of the north end of the parish and bring it down here to the south end of the parish. And we would like to, another concern about, we should be growing our district, the recreation in District 1, because we have a community, Al Dejan is about to move down here in Shreveport where I live at. So that's more kids, right? That's more people. So we're concerned that we're going to lose our representation. Right now we have access to the gym. We haven't had any problem. We need to use it. We always had access to the gym. But if these gyms close, we know we're not going to have no access to the super place y'all building over there. So as a concerned citizen, first of all, I'm sure you all going to address the legality that Mr. Wayne Thibodeau has talked about. And we want to let you all know that we are solely against this. There's nothing wrong with the district. We don't have any problem. They're being funded properly. And so we don't understand why we have to be in a super district. And then I don't understand personally, how can you choose certain districts if you all can address this? Say, I'm going to take these districts out of all the districts and just use these in order to combine them. You know what I mean? How is that legal and how do you go about doing that? To me, if you're going to make a super district, just make a super district. Make everybody in the super district. But you all have chosen certain districts to come together, and we know it has to do with money, I'm sure. But we would like for you all to leave things as they are, leave the districts, nobody having any problem, nobody complaining. And that is our concern as a community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clarence Williams? Please state your name and address, sir.
Good evening. My name is Clarence Williams, 2903 Highway 311, Shreveport, and I'm a resident in Rec District Number 1. Look, I come before you tonight from for a couple of reasons. I'm representing myself, of course, and I'm also representing the Gray Improvement Committee. The residents and/or the members of the committee are opposed and ask that you vote against, that is District 1, 2, and 3, 8, 9, that you vote against this proposition. Okay, why? It's being stated by the proponents that the reason why part of the reason why there should be a super district as opposed to having these independent districts is that there's no return on investment. That's a real good buzz term, no return on investment. How do you measure return on investment? One. Two, who measures return on investment? And how does that compare to entities of the same character, of the same nature? I don't think anybody could clearly tell me that at this point. And that's very, very important. What happens to this, of these districts if indeed consolidation becomes approved? One, the rec districts, and this has been said before, the rec districts will lose their authority, their management, their leverage, and the ability to add input and or make their rec districts solid and more viable. The bottom line is that this is a money grab. You've got 11 districts in Terrebonne Parish. Selectively, 5 have been chosen to be consolidated. It seems like there's a lot of thought behind this particular proposition, but I don't know if enough planning and if enough assessment of options have taken place so that you can make a good decision that impacts the parish, all of the parish, in a good fashion. So again, we're supporting and we recommend to the districts that you vote against this particular proposition because basically it's a no-brainer. There's no gain for the individual district. None. None at all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Public twice. Public 3 times. Motion to close by Mr. Guidry. Second by Ms. Domingue. All in favor? Any opposed? Do I have a motion to adopt? Motion to adopt by Ms. Domingue. Second by Mr. Darren Guidry. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and while we're on this item, to Mr. Thibodeau, Mr. Joseph, Mr. Williams, there's not one thing that you said that I disagree with. I agree with you 100%. There's no buts, 100%, okay? But I do want to clarify one thing. Mr. Thibodeau, I believe, said that this council wants to create a super district. I don't think that's the case. What this council has voted for is to allow the people to decide. And I truly believe the people will decide, and they'll decide against it. And I ask you, gentlemen, with the same conviction that you came up here with, to get the vote out come March. I truly believe this was supposed to be on the election in November, okay? But all these things transpired, and in the process of these things transpiring, we kind of had a hiccup with the Secretary of State. And I think it happened for a reason, because we're not going to have a turnout this year. We'll have a better chance at a turnout next year when hopefully some people are getting back home. And so please know that there may be some people on the council who want this to happen, but the council voted just to let the people decide. And that's what we want to do. And we want to put it to rest. And my hope and my prayer is that we put it to rest and it remain with individual districts because, again, I agree with everything you 3 gentlemen said. And Mr. Carl Harding.
Good evening, everyone. I think the losing of independence might be the idea of what was presented from the public here. again, like Mr. Michel say, it's not a super district. Also, I have to understand the position of what the council had and almost piggybacking on what Mr. Michel said. I look in the audience and basically what is represented out there to the people, and I hear your voice. You elected me to support you. I'm backing you. I see another district out there. I'm backing you. But realistically speaking, and at the viewpoints of the way the process that we have, one man, one vote, the opportunity to bring it to a vote, and you do your job, as Mr. Michel said, as a community. Those rights that are provided in this particular situation are provided in a number of other situations that don't deal with recreation. They deal with levees and all kinds of other things, roads and bridges. But to have an opportunity and to actually hear your voice and listen to me clear. I hear your voice. I support what you think of. I support what you want. But in order to get what you want now, or how it is later on down the line, you have to do your due diligence and the efforts that you put forward in reference to voting. But still in all, it is the process that we have to go through. Because if we actually change rules on this particular process, we create something here within this parish, not allowing people, when it presented to them and have the opportunity to go to the voting polls. There are some things that happen up here with this council, oftentimes don't even get a chance to go there. They're nipped in the bud. But something that has been on the table, and hopefully, and I'm going to be honest with this and straightforward, whether somebody's yay or nay for it, is the fact that it'll finally put whatever it is been brewing for a number of years to finally put it to rest. Now, whatever the people decides within the polls, that would be the decision. All of us will have to go by. Therefore, in my support of you, do your job, and that won't be no problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Mr. Navy?
Now, basically, I just want to make some comments on what Mr. Wayne Thibodeau just said, and he articulated the situation very well. And Mr. Thibodeau, I know you're a former council member, and I totally agree with everything you just said. At the end of the day, you know, can you hear me? No. Okay. Is it on? Yeah, it's on. Just get closer to the mic. Okay. You hear me now? Yeah, I just would like to make my comments as far as I believe truly on what Mr. Thibodeau just said, and he articulated the situation very well. You know, he's a former council member. He knows his government very well, more than probably most of us do. But I'll tell you this, I totally agree with letting the people vote, but I don't believe in a super district. And the same thing that Mr. Thibodeau just articulated about the situation. You know, I was actually slammed like crazy when I tried to do some recreation reform myself in a situation where I was trying to make it better for the district. And I got hit hard with that, but the legislation did, you know, get approved with that situation. And I sit here and think about the good things that happen out of that. And I don't want to see the districts, and I'll be honest with you, I'll put it on record. I don't want to see districts combined for the simple fact that then, you know, I just feel like some things going to happen that's not going to be in the best interest of some people. And I got to see it from a perspective on all the people of the parish, not just some of the people that benefit, but all the people. And some things that I just don't think that's going to be beneficial for everybody is going to be a beneficial for some. So, you know, the way Mr. Thibodeau just put it, you know, and he just brought some, you know, enlightenment to what I had to go through when I tried to make some different changes with the recreational districts and try to just make it good for my community that I represent also. But I tell you, Mr. Thibodeau, you put that very elegant, and I appreciate you 100%. With the simple fact that, you know, when I first started serving, Mr. Thibodeau was almost like a mentor, telling me some things that I need to do to better the community, and I feel that that helped me a whole lot. So I take that to heart, and I tell you this, if I sit there and not represent what I feel that's best for everybody, then I'm not a servant leader. You know, I believe in serving the needs of others and not myself. So I think it's elegant that I do that. And please understand, I just want to do the best for what's best for everybody, not just some. So I know it may be difficult for some people to understand that right now about what I'm saying. I'm sorry if it is, but that's just the way I feel. But I just thank y'all for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Navy. And just one final comment. If this proposal passes in all 4 districts, which is necessary for it to pass, if it passes in all 4 districts, then I'm going to have to get behind it. Okay? As much as I disagree with it, and I'm going to get behind it wholeheartedly to do the best with what we have with recreation. And so, with that being said, I'm asking those people who pushed so hard to get this on the ballot, we did our part, we got it on the ballot, we're willing to risk it passing, if you call it a risk, and stand behind it if it does. So I'm asking those people who were pushing for this, that when it does not pass, that you get behind recreation, the recreation districts as they are now, and work as hard as you've worked on this, and they've gotten some really good things accomplished, on improving recreation through the system that we have right now. Okay, thank you all for coming, and thank you all for your comments. Any other comments? Okay, moving on with item number 2. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Domingue.
Yes, I'm going to make a comment, not necessarily on this, but just about the conversation. I'd like to remind you, gentlemen, that we are not supposed to be campaigning for or against anything up here. So let's just remember that going forward in our conversations. Thank you.
Okay, well, in the future, I will not say that I'm absolutely against this. Thank you. Number 2, resolution for North Terrebonne Parish Recreation District, Parish of Terrebonne, State of Louisiana, ordering and calling a special election to be held within the boundaries of the district to consider a tax proposition and authorize the purpose for the revenues derived from that tax, making application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Moved by Ms. Amity, seconded by Ms. Domingue. All in favor? Any opposed? We have a nay by Mr. Steve Trosclair. Any other opposed? Motion carries. Motion adjourned, Mr. Amity. Second, Mr. Harding. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you all.
Notice to the public, if you wish to address the council, please complete the public wishing to address the council form. It's located at the table at the entrance. And please give it to our acting clerk here, Mr. Keith Hamilton. And please, if you speak to the council, please mention your name and address, and please be respectful of others in your choice of words and actions, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. So I'll go ahead and call the meeting of the Terrebonne Parish Council to order Wednesday, November 10th, 2021, and I'll be saying a prayer followed by the pledge. Dear God, please be with us today as we deliberate matters before us. Please also help remember our veterans as we celebrate Veterans Day tomorrow, and the people who have put their lives at risk to help protect our freedom so that we may worship you. Some of them are among my fellow council members. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Trosclair, Mr. Navy, Mr. Harding, Mr. Michel, Mr. Amade, Ms. Domingue, Mr. Darren Guidry.
Here.
Mr. Babin. Here. Mr. Dirk Guidry. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you very much. Distribute minutes of the regular council session held on October 27th, 2021, which has been done. Approve minutes of the regular council session held on October 13th, 2021. Move Mr. Danny Babin, seconded Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? What? Motion carries. Let's see, where it was 6:02 p.m. Okay, we're past that. Council convenes as a board of review to consider written appeals to the tax assessments as presented by the Terrebonne Parish Assessor, Mr. Grauber.
Lonnie Grauber, Terrebonne Parish Assessor. We have no appeals this year, so I just ask that y'all accept the rolls for 2021 as is.
Do you need a motion for that?
Yes.
Move Mr. Dirk Gidry, seconded by Mr. Steve Trosclair. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Thanks, Mr. Grauber.
Thank you.
Moving along, approve accounts payable bill list for November 1st, 2021 and November 8th, 2021. Move Mr. Danny Babin, second Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? General business, proclaim November 11th, 2021 as Veterans Day in Terrebonne Parish. Ms. Jessica Domingue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to read this proclamation on Veterans Day. Whereas on November 11th, we honor those who have served the United States Armed Forces, and whereas beginning in 1918, November 11th was observed as Armistice Day to commemorate the signing of the Armistice and end World War I, and whereas 1954 Armistice Day was originally changed to Veterans Day to commemorate veterans of all wars, and whereas on Veterans Day we recognize the heroism and accomplishments of our veterans in service to their country and the common good, and whereas we are indebted to our veterans and their families for their bravery and sacrifices which have provided us for many of the freedoms we cherish today, and whereas our veterans through their dedication and commitment continue to support the preservation of health and welfare of others, and whereas on this day, we acknowledge the many active service members for their patriotism in serving the nation and promoting the ideas of peace and liberty. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Terrebonne Parish Council on behalf of the Parish President, Gordon E. Dove, and the entire Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government that November 11th, 2021 be hereby declared and proclaimed Veterans Day, and that all residents be encouraged to honor and share their appreciation for all service members past and present, hereby presented this 10th day of November 2021, signed by Mr. Darren Gidry and Mr. Gordon Dove, and acknowledged by the entire Terrebonne Parish Council.
Do you have anybody here to accept the proclamation?
Mr. Chairman, we actually reached out to many individuals, especially those who work at our local military museum, and they were unable to come tonight, so our staff is actually going to deliver the proclamation to them tomorrow.
Well, then I would like to ask for our parish president to present it to our veterans on the council.
We have somebody in. Oh, Mr. Mark Black is actually chairman, so we'll go ahead and present it to Mr. Mark Black.
And I think our veterans on the board should join in the photograph
Absolutely.
for the presentation. And Mr. Black, can you see the?
Yes. Where is it? Oh, Keith has it. Okay.
Oh. Creatures of habit. And I'd like to recognize any veterans in the audience. Please stand up and be recognized We appreciate you guys. I know we have veterans out there. Thank you. And while we recognize people, I would be remiss to not recognize Mr. Wayne Thibodeau, a former parish council member who is in our audience today.
Hey, I got one thing to say.
Wayne Thibodeau, what did I say? Mr. Dirk Guidry?
Yeah, thank you for that presentation. I'd also like to wish happy birthday to the United States Marine Corps, 246 years today. So thank you if you're a Marine.
Before we do that, well, first of all, I want to recognize the Nichols nursing students. Thank y'all for coming. And let's go ahead and do the fire. Let's move on. Let's go ahead and consider the ratification of Cory Henry as a Houma Fire Department Fire Chief, if y'all don't mind. We have a motion by Mr. Dirk Guidry. We have a call for unanimous second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Would our new chief like to say anything?
Good evening. Cory Henry, 521 Kevin S. Drive. It's a great honor and privilege to be with y'all tonight in front of y'all. I'd like to thank President Dove for his appointment and the council's support on this. I look forward to serving the department and the city as their new fire chief.
Thank you. Mr. Dove.
First I want to say welcome aboard and congratulations on being the highest score out of everyone who took the test. That was very, very admirable. And, you know, I met with them and Steve met with them, and I believe you're going to lead the fire department in a great way with the tradition that they've done for years. And I want to acknowledge Mr. Sue Henry, your grandpa, who's here today as a proud grandpa, and I served, well, he's the longest serving member on a Terrebonne Parish levy board, and because of this gentleman right here, Morganza to the Gulf is where it's at today. So we need a round of applause for Mr. Sue Henry also. And our office is always open, and we'll see you in the staff meetings, and congratulations.
Look forward.
Mr. Trosclair.
Yeah, congratulations, Cory. I'm not going to go into my little speech that I gave you last meeting, but welcome aboard, and you know you got my support, and I'm sure you got the support of the 8 other councilmen on this board here for anything that you may need in the future to help or concerns. Feel free to call me or any one of us. We'll be glad to talk to you.
Thank you.
So welcome aboard. Thanks.
Mr. Harding.
Yes, I want to personally congratulate you. Of course, everybody knows I'm a retired firefighter, and everyone that was actually on the list. I basically know everyone was on the list, and I'm pretty sure not only that we're going to support you, I'm pretty sure that these firefighters that you have is going to support you and protect the citizens and property of Terrebonne Parish. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Babin.
Yeah, you know, Mr. Dove is right. You scored the highest on the test. That's very admirable. Looking forward to it. I want you to check to see if you're not the youngest fire chief that was ever appointed. If it is, that's a nice honor as well. Sure. Thank you.
You know, and I know you go around town right now, and they may say, oh, you're Mr. Sue's grandson. Well, you know, you're going to do so well that I think Mr. Sue's going to be going around and going, oh, yeah, you are the grandfather of the fire chief. So won't take long. So we're looking forward to good things. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We have a motion to go into public hearing. Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Moving on to public hearing. Item A, an ordinance to amend the 2021 adopted operating budget and budgeted positions of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Animal shelter donations, $2,500. Animal shelter donations, $25,000. General fund publicity, $26,595. Houma Fire Department, $1,069. City Marshal, $5,000. Houma Police Department, 0. Delete an Administrative Coordinator 2, Grade 106, and add an Administrative Assistant, Grade 107. Public once. Public twice, third time public on this issue. Motion to close, Mr. Dirk Gidry. Seconded, Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion to adopt, Mr. Dirk Gidry. Seconded, Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. B, the proposed 2022 parish budget and 5-year capital outlay budget. Do we have a motion to continue? Well, I guess we call public once. Public twice, third time public. Motion to continue from Mr. Danny Babin, second to Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is continued. Motion to go back in regular order by Mr. John Amity. Second to Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? We are back in regular order. General business, item C, Mr. David Drury, Terrebonne Parish Building Facilities Manager will give a pertinent information regarding Terrebonne Parish buildings. Mr. Drury.
Good evening. David Drury, Terrebonne Parish Facility Manager. And I really didn't know that I was on the agenda up until just recently, so I don't know what the presentation I was supposed to, but I don't know what the pertinent information was that I was going to present to you all. But I do know that, Terrebonne Parish, we basically, after the storm, we just follow our typical emergency preparedness plan, okay? And we carry that out. And that's what we did. We're tasked with an abundance of properties. And I think overall we have 200 properties that are listed on our insurance, okay? I don't oversee those 200. I oversee about 60 different buildings. And those buildings are, such as animal shelter, EOC, the government tower, the courthouses, the jails, the juvenile detention center, and a whole lot of other ones, Houma police, fire department, and so forth. So we support them as maintenance and so forth year in and year out. In reference to, I think that we, all of the judges are taken care of. They're conducting their business at various locations. It is an inconvenience. They want to be back in their courtrooms, and we're working on that, but we have procedures that we have to follow, okay? And I think that's the reason that I'm here tonight, is to provide you all with some answers in reference to why some buildings are closed, why we're not open for business, okay? I'm one person. I can't assess all these properties on my own, okay? So we are still hoping and waiting. We should get our property loss statements from the insurance here shortly. What that allows us to do is kind of move forward with looking at each building, looking at what's claimable, what's not claimable, if it's a total loss, okay? And in that in turn, we just had an RFQ for professional services to be turned in today by 2 o'clock to my office. We're going to have a small committee that's going to review those, make a recommendation. That will allow us to move forward with a lot of the repairs that are, what I want to say, on a large scale, okay? I don't know if y'all have any questions for me, but we are, I know y'all probably want to know when you're going to get back in the council meeting room. And I can tell you this much. I like the term that Ms. Teresa Robichaud used, and she said just until further notice, okay? Because when you give dates are hard at this point in time. It's not just the labor, it's the materials, it's everything in a nutshell. Everybody is overwhelmed, okay? The residents of this parish, the employees of this parish, everybody, every industry in this parish is struggling, and it's a stressful situation for everybody. So, in turn, we're trying to move as fast as we can, but we have the procurement process we have to follow. You know, the last thing we need to do is stretch ourselves out financially in reference to some cost factors, and we can't claim it under FEMA, or we don't get it from their insurance, or we don't have the money, okay? So I personally, I want every building to be great. I want it to be clean, sanitary, healthy, safe, you know, with all the horns, bells, and whistles. When we shut down a facility, we have to go through the process to reopen it, okay? We got fire alarm systems. You know, we went without water for a period of time. We went without power for a period of time. We got to clean things. We got to make it sanitary. We got to make it right, okay, before we allow people to re-enter. So in some instances, we can let people re-enter on a small scale. You know, the last thing we need is a room full of 200 or 300 people, and we only have one elevator working, okay? And then we're trying to move these people in the building, and it doesn't work, okay? So there's some situations that I think we are going to, now that we got our RFQ turned in, and you're gonna see some things start to move a little bit faster at this point. And I don't know if y'all have any questions for me.
Well, we have some lights. First of all, thank you, Mr. Drury, for coming. You know, the buildings guy, you don't see him too much unless you have some major problems with the buildings. At least the general public doesn't, because, you know, if the air conditioning goes out, it's us, you know, in our offices that are calling you. But I appreciate you coming here today. I know this is out of your wheelhouse, but thank you. Mr. Trosclair, you pulled it. Mr. Dove, would you like to say something?
Yeah. First of all, David, I want to thank you. I mean, you took on a monumentous task of all the government buildings in Terrebonne Parish, especially the government towers, courthouse, annex, jail, et cetera. And, you know, yourself, Candace Malden, and the rest of the group really moved fast in securing cotton to get into these buildings, and we tried to preserve as much as we could. We did have the backup generator, thank goodness, at the government towers and the courthouse that helped preserve a lot of mold and mildew. So, you know, I mean, I know more than anyone else sitting in here what you're going through, and I thank you, and you've done a wonderful job, and you've kept us abreast with it, and you do have a lot of buildings, and, you know, we do have good insurance on it, and of course, after that, we're going to try to pick up FEMA, and we're working diligently to get the council back into their council room. But thank you for everything you've done, and thank you for keeping us, the administration, in touch with what you're doing, and we're going to proceed forward.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ms. Domingue.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. David, for being here. And during this entire process, this council has really been wanting a lot of information, and I appreciate that, because we're the voice to the community, to the parish. And so I think what would help me and what may help my fellow councilmen up here is if we got a damage assessment. And so possibly that's something that you could send us, and then we can then say, okay, now we know that these buildings are damaged, and, you know, not necessarily an estimate, but then we can maybe assess ourselves, okay, this is going to be 6 months, or this is going to be however long it's going to be, so that at least we could tell people, and then possibly we can get maybe, you know, a report every once in a while of how that process is going. That's why when we get those questions, we can answer them. We don't necessarily have to go to administration. Maybe we can just get that, you know, directly from you. I think that'd be very helpful for me, and I know a lot of my fellow councilmen up here as well. And the other thing I want to remind you is, just because we've done it in the past that way doesn't mean we have to do it that way moving forward. So I'm really thinking of this hurricane as kind of, this is our blank slate. Everything that was not right, or that we didn't like in these buildings, let's fix. In my house, I was 75% gutted, and so we're modernizing everything. I'm putting new electrical and recessed lights and everything I didn't like before. I'm now moving forward, and so hopefully with the rebuild, I hope you guys are doing that and saying, you know, some of these buildings were old, or some of them weren't necessarily up to par with a municipality as this size, and so let's go ahead and improve. So remember that moving forward. You know, just because it was always done one way doesn't mean that we have to do it that way moving forward. And I have all faith that you guys are going to make it top-notch, and we're going to have the best government buildings, you know, in the entire area. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Michel.
Surprisingly, some of the things I want to say are the same as Ms. Domingue. You know, and I think that would be a great idea. A list of the buildings that are damaged, the status of the mitigation and the repairs, anticipation of, I know you said a date is hard to come by, okay, but whatever is possible, and the level of access in those specific buildings, whether employees are able to go, whether the public is able to go, whether no one's able to go. If we could, you know, if we could have that type of information, that would indeed be helpful. And anything that we can do, please let us know.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Babbitt?
Yeah, David, I'll direct this to you because you're standing up there, but every other department head in Terrebonne Parish government, people in the community forget you have to do your regular job every day, coupled with all the new duties that you're doing right now. And I personally, and I know everybody up here appreciates that, because this is unprecedented for Terrebonne Parish. So we have to keep the government going, and that's what we're doing here, but the government functions every day through all of the different departments here in Terrebonne Parish. So again, I want the general public to realize you're doing your normal job, your regular job, plus. And for that, I thank every one of the department heads.
That is correct.
And I think it's what some of my fellow council members are saying are some of the things that we're used to when we see some of the engineering reports on some of the pump stations that we're building. You know, they will have like the next thing that needs to be done, create RFQ. And then what is the anticipated of that? They usually only tell us the anticipated date of the next step. They can't tell us. They may say, you know, we're hoping to finish by this time, but all they can really give you is what they anticipate for the next step. And, you know, so that may be one way, you know, because we know now we got the RFQ. So,
Right.
you know, so the next step would be to review that, which you'd probably anticipate happen within the next week or so, you know.
Right.
But before I continue, go ahead, Mr. Amity.
David, I want to thank you too for meeting with the chairman and the vice chairman, because that let us know so that we can plan our council meetings in the future. We'd all like to be back in our spaces, but it is what it is. You know, Mother Nature had a wrath on Houma, and here we are. One of the things that you did say that I want to reiterate is, because people forget, the government has to deal with insurance companies too. We also have to deal with FEMA. We can't just go out there and say, well, you know, FEMA's going to pay for this. No, there's a protocol and steps that we have to follow in order to get those reimbursements. So I thank you and Ms. Candace and all the departments for being diligent and getting those things done, so that way we don't use the money that we have in the coffers to have to deal with that. We can get those funds that are available. Mr. Dove, I had a conversation with him, and I appreciate him going directly full speed and getting a consultant to help us find those monies in the cracks that are rightfully ours, because there's a lot of it out there and we need to take advantage of that. So I just wanted again to state that again. You know, just because we're the government, we do have to deal with all those same things that the homeowners. I don't know if we're fighting with our insurance companies like some of the homeowners are. I think we got a good company and they're probably doing well. But I know that in situations, just because we're the government, we don't tell them what to do. They still tell us. Again, I appreciate all that you're doing, David.
Thank you.
And of course, there's one step, even more than homeowners, that we have to do, and that is public bid law. If it's over a certain amount, then you have to advertise it for a certain amount of period. You have to get the bids. You have to go through the bids. You have to see if they're legally qualified. And there's, I've learned, you know, since I've been in government, that it's totally different than me and my business. You know, I can turn the key and get, you know, my business up much quicker, you know, than we can do anything. Then we can build lights in the Bayou Country Sports Park. But I did explain to the council members, thank you for the tour. I did explain to them the exact story on our meeting room, and I think that's why you didn't get a lot of questions about that.
Right.
And I think one of the impetus of this were some questions that came up at our last meeting, specifically in relations to the courthouse. Could you tell me specifically what we are experiencing with the courthouse and what we're dealing with there?
Yeah, Actually, we have the courthouse, the old courthouse, and then we also have the annex adjacent to it, which they adjoin through the walkway that goes across School Street. Let me start with the old courthouse has a jail above it on the very top, which is now used for storage and files for Ms. Teresa Robichaud. That roof is a copper roof, historical building. It's got a flat roof area, torch down bitumen roof with drains and so forth. Numerous ventilations, turbines, dormers on that roof, okay? And if you can imagine, the north wind came from the front of that building basically, and we had a lot of what I want to call copper roofing that was twisted and torn in some areas along the front side, and then some of the dormers were damaged, and you know, it's kind of, you know, it leaked and it came in, but it was minimal in that area, okay? And we did have some damage in Judge Arsenault's courtroom, and we also had some in Judge Pickett's courtroom. And it's, I don't want to bore y'all, but it got a little complicated in trying to locate exactly how the water got in there, because that water actually traveled in the cement between the floors, okay? And if you can imagine, a steel beam that was an old jail wall going all the way to the outside wall, and then over time somebody cut it all out. Well, it leaked from that through the wall into that channel. That channel was embedded in the cement, okay, and it traveled approximately 24 feet, and then it came through in Judge Pickett's courtroom. So there was no water that we discovered leaking from the top or the bottom of that concrete. It was coming through it. So we had to drill through the floor of the Judge Pickett's courtroom up into the ceiling of the old jail, or the floor of the old jail, to discover this. And it took some time. But nevertheless, as we have, we've identified that. We need to do some waterproofing on that roof. We need a new roof. We need new capping. We need a copper roof. It's historical. It's going to be very, very, very expensive. Copper, you know, is just one of those things. But we have to get our loss statement and everything. Then, basically, so those two courtrooms, Judge Juan Pickett and Judge David Arsenault, I've met with all of them off and on during this whole scenario. So they've made accommodations elsewhere. We have courtrooms set up. So what I foresee happening is we should be able to move quickly on starting to get that roof spec'd, scoped, and bidded out. And then also we can start working on the permanent repairs. We do have temporary repairs in place from Cotton, but we really need the permanent repairs in place before we do permanent work underneath in the courtrooms. Judge Arsenault's courtroom, as y'all all know it, I don't know if y'all have all been in there, that's historical. It is massive. It's got like a 24-foot ceiling. We got some paint peeling off the ceilings and all. We got ceiling tile that came down. So Judge Arsenault wants his courtroom to be, and we need to do it. It's historical. It's precious. It's something we can brag about. So we need to do it right. He's okay with the sooner the better, but as soon as you get ready, Dave, I'm okay with it. Judge Pickett was the same. So the other thing is Teresa Robichaud, the clerk of court. Hats off to her and her team and her employees, because I'm going to tell you something. They prepared that old courthouse like it was their home. I'm telling you. They picked up every single item off the floors in the basement, off the racks, historical, books and stuff, and she did a wonderful job. Had she not done that, we would have been faced with several hundreds of thousands of dollars of cleanup, okay? When I met with Mr. Dove out there at EOC, we made a list. What are the priorities? What's the number one building? It's the courthouse. And the courthouse has records there from the late 1700s, okay? They're there. They're precious. We cannot afford for them to get damaged or destroyed. We would be spending millions of dollars probably if they all got, and the building did well. It's one heck of a building. So I can honestly say it did well. And I feel good about that. I don't like the fact that we got a basement. you know, and I've got 2 of them to deal with. So we did okay, you know. So, I mean, there's a lot to be thankful for in reference to that. But we, you know, so that's in reference to the old courthouse. The annex, we lost probably 50% of the roof on the walkway that goes across from the annex to the courthouse. We also lost the very top roof that was over the jail of the annex. That allowed water to come through the jail area, through the second floor area, through the DA's office, by the judge's, by Judge DeGate's office, Judge Bethencourt's office, and down towards the radio room of the sheriff. So, you know, we did our mitigation. We got in there with the teams, and they did their work. They dried it out. We're moving as quickly as we can. We had to re-sheetrock, repaint, and everything, and all that got completed last Friday in that area. Okay, so as far as the old courthouse and the courtrooms there, it's going to be, you know, I would have to say it's going to be a couple more months before we start having court in there, unless we move really quick with awarding the work and they can get the scope and the specs out on the top of that old courthouse. But it is historical, and we have to put it back that way. We can't cut any corners. That's it.
Thank you very much. Any other lights? Mr. Harden?
I appreciate you. It's kind of you look different than what you're doing in the building. But I want to point out something to the people that's out there. Is the fact that you felt as if it was somewhat of an impromptu situation that you had to come before us, and you didn't know what to expect. But what I'm going to have my hat to go off to you about is the fact that once you start going, and I realize that you have actually done some study and did some work, and then you've done the best that you possibly could, just without a piece of paper in front of you. So you sound as if that you've been firsthand on that, and I have the confidence that, you know, man, the job that you're going to do, and with the patients, with the people of the parish, that we're going to be recovering just as well as the parish going to be recovering. And I appreciate your efforts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving along, item D, presentation by the Terrebonne Economic, what is that? Well, I guess we could do it now, Mr. It said, Mr. LaPerouse, did you want to speak now, or or under public comment? We could do either, because we're on. Well, we have public comment coming up, so I'll put you under public comment. You're welcome. Presentation by the Terrebonne Economic Development Authority, Chief Executive Officer Mac Ruker, regarding the Bayou Business Community Housing Initiative. Mr. Ruker could not be here today, so this item was pulled. Item E, discussion and update from the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness related to COVID-19 and any other pertinent public information. Mr. Hughes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Earl Hughes, Director of Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, 101 Government Street in Gray. I'll start off with the COVID report, and then I'll give a small FEMA hurricane update, and then I'd like to give Mr. Chris Pulaski an opportunity to speak about the housing that's going on within the parish between the state and FEMA. So the COVID report is from the last 2 weeks, from your last council meeting. Number of cases today is 19,506. Total of 150 cases between the last council meeting. It's about 10 cases per day. Number of deaths, we're at 295. There were 5 deaths in the last 2 weeks. Naturally, it's less than one a day. Number of tests is 202,316. There was 4,658 tests since the last council meeting, about 332 tests per day. Hospitalizations, over the last 2 weeks, we've had an average of 20 hospitalizations in the last 2 weeks, averaging 2 a day. Our percent probability is at 2.8%, which went down 0.1% from last week. So we're doing well with that. Vaccinations, we have 50,269 people in the parish vaccinated. 44,112 have completed their vaccinations, which means they've had both doses. In the state of Louisiana, there's 4,549,548 vaccinated, with 2,221,353 having completed their vaccinations. So these numbers will also include the pediatric numbers, but they're not separated. So we'll just continue to get a number of persons in the parish that are vaccinated. So percent of vaccinated within our parish is 39.18%. Talking about vaccinations, the Terrebonne Parish Public Health Unit offers vaccinations from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. every day. They also do testing at the health unit. They prefer that you make an appointment, but walk-ups are welcome. You can also get a flu shot there if you need a flu shot. That's located on Polk Street. This Friday, next Wednesday, and the following Friday, they will be giving out the $100 incentive for those who haven't taken any vaccination, COVID vaccination. If you're going for your first shot, are you eligible for a $100 gift card? They do have Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson, and they are also giving pediatric shots there also. Marcel Supermarket will be having a COVID vaccination on actually tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday. And there is an incentive for the $100 shot, with an incentive. No appointments needed, open to the public. All three vaccinations are available at that site. Nicholls State University continues to give vaccinations from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you have a shot for $100 is available there also. They are also doing testing at that site. That's all I have for COVID, unless somebody has any questions.
Mr. Harding?
Yes, sir. Are we offering anything in any locations like we've done in the past for adults as we should for children? Are there any locations that we're actually having for?
The only locations we have available are those that I listed, and the Department of Health is continuing to do those. So, and those are open, available all the time.
Okay. Nothing just specifically, none of the schools or?
That's correct.
Yeah,
There's
okay.
no specific locations that are available. I mean, if somebody would like one, we can inquire and see if we can get something. But we've found that the vaccination numbers are kind of down. So they open up these vaccination sites and they get 10 people there or 12 people there.
Yeah.
So we try to encourage them to go to where they have it all the time. Most vaccinations are available at your doctor's office now. So if you go to your doctor, you can get a vaccination, and then we have these public sites available too.
Yeah, just it's too bad, and I got my vaccination and I missed $100.
You missed $100? I did too.
So,
and I didn't get nothing for a booster either.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Okay. Before I leave the COVID, it is still out there. You still can get infected with COVID. You should still practice, sanitizing your hands, washing your hands, sanitizing your area. You might want to continue to do some social distancing. I am pleased with the 2.8%. If y'all remember, before we left for the hurricane, it was 19.5%. So a lot of people, what happened? Did the hurricane blow it away? No, I think what happened was we had about a 2.5 week period of where people weren't around each other because of the storm. They were at somebody else's house. They were over there. There was no school for 2 weeks. And if you remember, if you watched the news and you heard some of the experts talk that if you could shut everything down for a couple of weeks, you could lower the chance of getting COVID. That's what happened during the hurricane. We were separated from each other and away from each other for a 2.5 week period. So I think that helped us in our parish to get the numbers down and to be where we are today. But we still need to be cautious, and I would still recommend people to practice good hygiene while because there's still COVID out there. Okay, Moving on to FEMA, the parish has 41,856 valid registrations of households. FEMA has done 29,724 inspections of those households. They have seen 6,593 people at the Disaster Recovery Center, which is at the Civic Center at the present time. They're seeing an average about 140 to 150 per day. We are still trying to set up another DRC in Montague, close to where the base camp is. We still are working on that because we still feel like people down the bayou still need some assistance with registration and issues with their FEMA assistance. I'd want to remind everyone that if you filed for FEMA assistance through disasterassistance.gov, if you have been denied, you can go to the DRC and appeal that. If you have been pushed over to the Small Business Administration, you have to fill out the application for the Small Business Administration. And if you are turned down from the Small Business Administration, then they refer you back to FEMA. So I'd like to remind everyone that if you applied for assistance and they pushed you to SBA, please fill out your paperwork for SBA, and if you don't qualify, then they'll push you back over to FEMA for some additional assistance. So far, FEMA has distributed $303,859,016 in Terrebonne Parish for individuals and households. So once again, that's over $303 million in the parish. SBA has issued 2,083 home loan approvals for $123 million. $123 million. Business loan approvals were 78. That's 4.7 million. And those that have applied for economic loss assistance, there were 12 with 357,000. It's not too late to apply for SBA, and it's also not too late to apply for disaster assistance through FEMA. The Red Cross shelter that was on Venture Boulevard closed on November the 5th. Everyone in that shelter had been placed into some type of housing assistance. At one time, we had sheltered over 350 residents throughout all the sheltering from before the storm in Monroe, all the way down to St. Mary Parish, and then bringing them into Terrebonne. So all of those people have found some type of housing and were offered some type of housing assistance. Debris pickup, we're at 1.9 million cubic yards. We are continuing to meet with state officials and FEMA officials regarding demolition of houses and clearing the waterways, cleanups, and that's ongoing with the Solid Waste Department and the Public Works Department. The Corps of Engineers has installed 2,458 blue roofs. That program has ended, so there will be no more blue roofs installed. FEMA direct housing, these are Fema Trailers, which is different than the state trailers, and Chris will expound on this some more. There's 18 that are installed and ready for electricity, but there's only 5 that have people inside those FEMA trailers at this time. We did get word that they are looking at putting in 22 mobile home units in Carriage Cove, leased out some spots over in Carriage Cove. So that's all I have regarding, the hurricane response. Does anybody have any questions besides housing? Because Chris will answer those housing questions.
Mr. Trosclair?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I know you spoke about this at the last meeting, but just in the last 2 days, I got 3 calls, people that had FEMA inspectors or FEMA, whatever you gonna call them, talking to people down there, telling them that they wasn't qualifying for trailers because of the flood elevations.
Okay, Chris is going to expound on that some more.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay. Please call me if y'all have any questions or need any assistance. Thank y'all very much. Okay, Chris?
Thank you, Earl.
Chris Pulaski, Director of Planning and Zoning. Good evening. So I'll start with the base camp updates. We have operating right now 4 base camps in the parish. We have the one in Houma on Scott Lane, 100 people. But as many of you know, that's been expanded to for another 100 capacity, and they moved 20 people in tonight, and they're going to be moving more people in tomorrow. We have one in Dulac for 100 people. It's about 25, maybe 30% occupancy. We've got one in Chauvin that's about 50% occupancy. That's a 100-person camp. And then we have one in Montague that's about 25, 30% occupancy. We also have one on Williams Avenue at the old Legion Park site that's beginning construction. I don't have a projected opening date as of yet, but it's another 50-person camp. So the sites, the expanded Scott Lane site and the one on Williams Avenue, we've requested that the housing unit types have a little more flexibility in terms of accommodations, so we can get, like, for example, double beds instead of bunk beds. So if we have people who have accessibility issues or elderly, it's easier to utilize a double bed for that occupancy. And then we're also looking at a potential site over on the air base. So that would be, I believe, a 100-person site as well. I'll move on to state housing unless anybody has any questions about base camps. Okay.
Go ahead, Mr.
Just
Babin.
one, since you're on the base camps, and you may address this later. I know Earl and I had gone down Dulac and Chauvin last Friday, I think it was, because the state, or maybe it was the week before, the state wanted to put in some catering down there for the people, because I think Red Cross was pulling out. But then that was nixed, as I found out after, and those people are eligible to go to the base camps for food.
Mm-hmm.
That's still,
As far as I know, that's still being allowed at this point in time. I mean, there may be a period where they modify that, perhaps have food truck stations as opposed to utilizing the full-on base camp sites.
Right.
But that may happen if they look to start consolidating base camps in the future.
I mean, it was my understanding that the state wanted to do it, and the state came back and said, no, just allow those people to go to the base camps, those that were utilizing it the other way. So if that's in place, that's fine.
Well, I know Mr. Trisclair and Mr. Dove had gone down and then
right.
requested that the state allow the program to be expanded for those food services.
I just wanted to make sure that was still in place. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Trosclair?
Yeah, Chris, have you heard, I know I haven't heard anything, sometime back, the projected time frame of maintaining these camps was somewhere in mid-November. Is that something that's
I know
still looking at,
they've
or-
issued another extension.
Okay.
I think what they're looking to do is see how the state and FEMA housing programs continue to roll out and adjust the term for the base camps accordingly.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so for the temp housing programs, so if you recall last time we were here, the numbers for the state, this is through GOSEP, through their contractor Aptum, we had, I believe, just around mid-30 trailers had been delivered to private properties, and we had 8 that were occupied. Since that time, things have really ramped up. As of today, there are 213 trailers have been deployed to private properties throughout the parish, and of those, 117 are occupied. So that's not 117 people, that's 117 trailers. So some trailers may have 1 person, some may have 4. So that's a much improvement. And I know in the permit office, for example, we're getting batches usually once a day, sometimes twice a day, and every batch of permit applications is usually between 20 and 30 sites. So trailers are moving in. I know you see them around town. They're driving all through bringing trailers to and from the Civic Center's staging area. And let me also reiterate that that staging area is one of 3 in the region. So we have the one here, I think one's in Prairieville and one's in Destrehan. So not all of the travel trailers you see at the Civic Center are destined for Terrebonne Parish. I think you can presume most of them would be, but not all of them. We have the need, the largest need by far. So that's where I'm coming with that. As far as questions that you guys might be getting from constituents, they all need to, in order to be in the program, they must be registered with the state. Now, I know we've turned in all of the names that you guys collected, that we collected. All of that has now been turned over to the state as of mid-October, and they are working through that list, contacting folks, making sure that they're registered, and in some instances where they're having trouble reaching out, we're jumping in to assist with that. But you have to be registered to receive a travel trailer. So Aptum is still operating that 844-268-0301 phone number. They are also still using the idashelteringla.com online registration page. If you do have somebody calling or going online, be sure that they have their FEMA registration number handy, because that's going to be the first thing they'll ask them for. Aptum also has representatives daily at the Civic Center at the DRC from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now that changes week to week, so every Monday I find out where they're going to be and for what duration. But for right now, the remainder of this week, they will be at the Civic Center 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and FEMA has representatives there as well. I'm trying to think if I have any more off the top. Do you have any questions about travel trailers, the state program?
Mr. Navy?
Yeah, a few questions I have. You mentioned that the state have 3 staging sites. I know we have this staging site here at the Civic Center, and they're housing trailers for other parishes. Are the other staging sites housing trailers for Terrebonne Parish?
Could be. I don't really know the details or logistics of that aspect of it.
Okay. Because that'll be interesting to know. That'll be more trailers that we could be getting here. And I don't understand how we housing them, and we know where they're going, but we don't know if they're housing them over there, that they're coming to Terrebonne Parish. Who does something? Who we could contact?
Aptum is monitoring all of that.
Okay. Another question I got to ask. Do we know actually how many trailers right now that are going to the residents in Terrebonne Parish, or that's a daily situation there too?
Well, every day there's more going out there, but as of through the end of business, or through the end of the day Monday this week, it was 254 trailers were delivered to Terrebonne Parish residents.
Okay.
And 117 have occupants in them, which means that difference, the trailers may be waiting on getting the utilities hooked up. Once the trailer gets delivered, they have to hook up the utilities, and then those hookups have to be inspected. Once that's, at the same time that's happening, the resident is filling out paperwork with the state, to be able to occupy and utilize that trailer. A COVID cleaning crew is going in and cleaning out all the trailers that are being issued. So there's things that happen from the day that the trailer is delivered until the day the keys are actually handed over to that resident. So that's the thing that we're really trying to narrow down to, is that time period. And I think right now the biggest sticking point seems to be getting utilities hooked up, especially in Entergy service areas.
Applicants, you said?
Aptum, A-P-T-I-M.
Okay, and they don't keep some type of statistics about how many trailers are going to what parish?
Oh, yeah, they do. That's where this 254 came from.
Okay, I'm talking like a daily count, like how many?
The staging areas?
Yeah, how many?
I'm sure they do, but we don't have access to that information.
Okay.
I mean, we can go in. They just launched this week. They trained us on it yesterday. We can log into their website and see at a glance, how many trailers have been delivered to residents in Terrebonne, how many are, leased in, how many are waiting for, the utility hookups and stuff like that. And we can see the same information for the other parishes too. But to my knowledge, there isn't a column in there for, how many are at the staging area and at the Civic Center, how many are. I would think that that's a number to really not focus on, because it could change. I mean, I think it's part of it's where the trailers are coming in from. If they need to pull more trailers over to Terrebonne, I'm sure they will from the other staging areas. But right now, I mean, it's still pretty full out there.
Yeah, it's a chaotic process. I mean, that process I quite don't understand. But going back to the base camp, and something that Councilman Babin was just talking about with the feeding, if they have that on the air base, I guess that can be another process that they can use also, because that'll be more of an east side type of situation where feed it to the more of the east side. I'm not saying it's just exclusive for the east side.
Right.
But we don't have one down in the bayous that I know of, and we don't have any. Correct, right? You got one in Dulas? Okay. Bayou Live? Okay, that's right. Okay. So I think that would be a good thing if they can actually utilize that also, what Councilman Babin was talking about. But I was just curious about the travel trailer, because that's a confusing process that they don't even let you know how many trailers are actually right there now that's going to be going out to the residents of Terrebonne Parish.
They, I wanted to also mention too, we've been in contact with the base camp operators and the folks at Aptum, because we're also providing them, making sure that they have a list of the occupants in the base camps, because if they're in that base camp, if they're in that great a need for shelter, they're obviously going to be in a need for the travel trailer too. I'm not saying that they're, given higher priority per se than somebody else, so I don't want everybody thinking, oh, well, let me go to the base camp tomorrow because I'll have a better shot at getting a trailer. But we want them to know, okay, well, these people are, so that at least they can keep that in mind as they're, deploying these travel trailers, especially once they get group sites up and running, because a lot of the occupants in the base camps don't have property that they could have a travel trailer placed on.
I think that's correct, because if you got the tent city or whatever base camp, and I mean that's people that really don't have housing.
Right.
I'm not trying to put anybody else down, because I mean everybody may be displaced out of the state or out the parish, but I mean it's just a process that you just can't really put your finger on. I mean, the direction is housing. So
yeah.
But I appreciate that, Chris. I mean, some things I think the public need to know is that we don't have totally 100% control of this whole process. And that's like a lot of these council members talking about getting these phone calls, but these are things that some of the stuff we can't control. It's just not in our demeanor. So I don't know how to explain that, but somebody need to come and tell the public that, so the public understand this process completely, because I'm still confused about it. The fact that, we got people that need housing, and we don't know where these trailers are really going to at times, and we don't know how many count they are, going to the people at Terrebonne Parish, but we staging for other places, and they got other staging points. We don't know if they coming to Terrebonne. That's kind of confusing. So I was just concerned about that, but I appreciate that.
And then the last part about the travel trailers are group sites for those folks who are renting properties and stuff. So the main area that the state is focused on, and FEMA as well, right now at least, is Rebecca Plantation out at 311 and Highway 90. The state contractor, they're looking at roughly 253 sites for travel trailers at that location. It won't be the only group site, but it's certainly the one that's got the most traction thus far. Now that's the state travel trailers. And then I'll jump into FEMA, and then I'll hit on the special flood hazard areas because it covers both.
Mr. Michel.
Thank you. It sounds to me like the prioritization process has kind of shifted from the parish to the state. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, so initially we were collecting all the names and kind of sorting them by council districts, and that's how we were pushing them over to Aptum. But they were telling us, well, from a efficiency standpoint, it'll be faster if the deployment will be faster, and everybody will be who's in need of a trailer will be into a trailer if they're able to do it geographically, because they're wasting too much time going all these locations. I mean, you know Terrebonne Parish and how it's physically laid out. You know, it takes, 14 miles, 30 miles down to the end of the road, and then you got to turn around and come all the way back up. If you're in a boat, you could do it a lot faster, right? But so they have shifted some of that over to a geographic, but we're still going through. I mean, we had prioritized, the essential workers, first responders. We had other priorities. We had the school district employees, and so we were feathering those in and then giving them the numbers by council districts, and we still have it sorted by council districts, but at the end of the day, they're the ones that are controlling the deployment of the travel trailers.
And okay, yeah, I don't know that that's good news for the people in my district the few people who might need it as much as the masses do down the bayou. If somebody new wants to register who has not registered, they will go to idashelteringla.com.
Correct. Or that 844 number.
Okay, gotcha. And we had spoken a couple of meetings ago about the possibility of being notified when someone from our district received one. Has that been happening or not?
No, but I can definitely start doing that especially now that we have a more direct daily update through this dashboard that they've created. So when they put the numbers on the dashboard, they don't include what council district it's in. So we'll just have to take the address and match it to whatever district it's in. But we could start pushing that out.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Mr. Babin.
Yeah, Chris, a couple of troubling things that I heard you say is that geographically they think it's easier to go to the shortest distance first. Is that
No, that's not what
statement?
that's not what I intended, I guess.
Okay.
What I meant by that is if they're going to send their guys down to do inspections or send the contractors out to place trailers, it makes more sense to do them in large groups versus kind of spreading them all out all over in every which way.
Yeah,
So they're doing it geographically.
From a business perspective, I can understand that. But from a need perspective, I don't care for that at all, okay? I mean, this company's making $9.5 million for this. And we're out 73 days now, and we got 117 people. Again, this group of people up here turned in probably 3,000 names, okay? And it's just getting more aggravated every day. And look, I know you guys feel it as well, because as John said, we have no control over this, okay? Apton, or however you pronounce it, is in charge of it. And I just think that it's taken an extremely long period of time. I was going to ask you the question of, once they bring a trailer there, do you have an average of number of days it takes before once it's delivered to its people get in?
I don't have that, but I can certainly get that.
Because you made a statement, and then actually John started talking. I don't think everybody heard it. You're having problems with Entergy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's the biggest delay.
And that needs to be brought out here. That's why I wanted to say it again, okay? Because Ernie Brown's sitting back there, and I think Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government is doing a great job. I represent 95% of my constituents on Sleeker, and they're doing an excellent job. But probably the majority of the people in this parish may be on Entergy. I don't know. And
Well,
if
they do have the largest number of customers, and that's why Parish President Dove was on the phone with Philip May explaining that, they need to increase the rate at which they're able to energize and come out and hook these travel trailers up.
And that's why I wanted to bring this up, because I want the people who are listening, or maybe they can get this out to the people who are not listening, that it's not the parish, it's not Sleeker holding things up, Entergy's holding up, the biggest one of all right? And then that's that shouldn't be in, you know, in 2021. We should get better service than that. But again, going back to the meals, from a business perspective, and again, we don't have to judge who's getting a trailer and who's not, okay? And I wouldn't want to do that. But from a business perspective, it would be from the state's benefit to try to get people that are in the camps into trailers, and then that way they could shut the camp down, and it would be less, they would save money, put it that way.
Right.
Okay? But again, they have to make that decision. As long as we're getting trailers out to people, and we are increasing from last meeting 35 to at least 117, and that's good, but it's not near good enough. And I know you feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
So just want the people to realize that it's not Chris Pulaski, it's not Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, it's out of our control. And it's a shame that it's taken this long, 73 days out, and people are still living in cars and tents. And I know people are getting tired of hearing that, but those people are getting tired of living in that. So thank you for what you're doing, but let's try to kick some tail a little bit more, please. Thank you.
Mr. Harding.
Yes, thank you. Chris, again, you're doing a great job. Kind of going along with some of my colleagues here. The number 217 trailers, 117 occupied. Go along with Mr. Michel, even though it may not be as many people in demand of the trailers within my district, and it can be questionable according to the damage. The process, the way we started out, and we went, and so many trailers that were going to be allotted to Terrebonne Parish. I kind of would like to know where these trailers are going. No offense to any other person or any one particular person within Terrebonne Parish, but the process, if you give me something and I shake your hand, we have an agreement, and I try to stick to my word. So when I go out to my constituents, you know, man, they've actually called me on, like Mr. Neighbor said, rather frequently, and I had to tell them they're still calling about these trailers. I want fair play to be, you know what I mean? We just can't say, well, one life is more valuable than the other, you know what I mean? Because one man's trash is another man's treasure. So therefore, homeless is homeless, damage is damage. So the process that we actually had, somehow or another, I feel as if it's been augmented, and we have, like everyone else has been saying here, we have no control over it. But I appreciate the fact that, you know, we have the 117 occupancies, cash codes are being used. I have two more things I want to mention. How long it would take for us to get our allotment of trailers from the state?
I can't answer that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I appreciate that. That's fair. Now, one more thing. I had a elderly lady that's living in Georgia right now. She's 80 years old, living on Linda Ann Street. She said the people came out to give her a trailer, but they want to charge her $450 to have an X-ray machine to find her sewage. She shouldn't have any cost. Now, there shouldn't be any cost to hook up these trailers, should not?
Let me be very clear on that.
Yeah.
No survivor should be paying anything to have the trailer installed from the standpoint of a pole, the temp pole, if they need a temp pole meter, or the electrical work that the electrician is doing, okay, or tying into the sewer system. Now, where there is some costs involved, like in Terrebonne Parish, where we have our utilities, we've been able to waive the meter deposit for a new meter. But Entergy hasn't done that. I don't know if Entergy can, because they're a for-profit. Sleeka's a co-op. I'm not sure if they can either. So there may be some out-of-pocket costs that the survivor would have to pay, and believe me, we're asking daily about that, because that just doesn't sit well. And if they do have to come out of pocket for it, can they turn around and submit that for reimbursement to FEMA or the state, right? Same for, well, the meter deposits. Oh, and then septic systems. You know, if a septic system needs some improvement or work done to it to make it acceptable to the Department of Health, the same thing. If there are costs and those can't be covered by the program, which I think they should, but if they can't be covered under the program up front, then can the survivor submit that for reimbursement on the back end?
Well, the problem we have here is that we have an elderly lady at 80 years old. She's displaced, and she's tied into the sewer system. And I was actually at odd that they want to charge her for an x-ray machine to do sewage. I have her number. I want to publicly make that statement, but then I'm going to speak with you, and I want that to be brought out to the rest of the people that's listening, that it shouldn't be any cost, if any, to have these trailers installed. So I don't get it.
If somebody runs into that situation, whether it be for electrical or sewer or what have you, they need to reach out to Aptum through those numbers, because that's who controls the contractors that are doing the work. And if they're for some reason having trouble, I mean, they can contact my office at 873-6567, and we can, you know, relay that information. If we get the person's name and address at the very least, you know, we can get a hold of our Aptum rep and say, okay, you know, this person needs some assistance, and we've done that before. I know we had, I think Mr. Trosclair had somebody who dropped $1,200 on a temp pole. Shouldn't have done that, you know, but they didn't know. Yeah, and we actually, I mean, I know I'm going to jump into FEMA here, but we had a constituent call and say, well, FEMA told me I have to install a temp pole. And we said, well, okay, who is it that's telling you this? And so he actually sent us a screenshot of the text message that he was getting from FEMA. So we called the number, spoke to the FEMA call center person back in D.C., and read to them their text message that was going out to all of the people who were registering. It's just some boilerplate text message. And the language is just poorly written. They're not telling them to go and install a temp pole, but it's very easy to infer that from how that text message was written. So we talked to FEMA, and they've changed that. So, but it took, you know, we got to go out and do that, and it's just crazy that we have to do that. But
Mr.
we
Ali?
will.
Yeah, Chris, another thing I get calls along with the drainage thing is several people are calling me saying, who do I call with the parish to come mark where my drainage is at? Well, they're not supposed to do that. If you're putting a shovel in the ground, it's the contractor's responsibility to call for a locate.
Correct.
And that's what I tell them. I said, when they call back, you tell them that's not my job, it's yours.
811.
Yeah,
That's who they call.
811. Because as a contractor, you know, you can't call and get a locate on your property and I go dig up your property. If I hit a gas line, it's on me, and then I get fined for not doing the locate. So the contractors out there, whether they're from out of state or what, need to know, and they should know, that if they're going to dig in that yard, they need to do it and quit trying to put that on the responsibility of the homeowner.
Yeah, and that's part of the permit that goes out too, is it has all that information to the contractor.
Now, Chris, the group sites are the sites where we're going to put these state trailers. Rebecca, Plantation, an example. What is our timeline on that? Do we know?
Well, they don't have a hard, fast date. I would think we're probably looking at least 2 to 3 weeks before they have it ready.
The reason I'm asking is
Laugh, chuckles.
I had two constituents that went to the Civic Center to meet with Aptim to register, and they refused to accept their registration because they said, we're not taking group sites because we don't have any, we don't know when they're going to come. You'll have to come back. So they would not even take an application because, and they'd filled out an application with us, and of course Aptim has no record of it, but she went ahead and filled it out using her brothers, And then as 4 or 5 days when they contact her back and she let them know her brother, she can't do it at her brother's, they said, oh, well, you're going to have to reapply.
Well,
when we get
that's
group
something that
sites.
we need to relay back to Aptum because even in their breakdown, they have in their spreadsheets, whether the person requires an individual or group site. So they're taking.
They should take the
That doesn't
application.
make sense.
Well, and the lady
Yeah.
waited 4.5 hours too, by the way.
Yeah.
But, Mr. Babin?
We have a meeting next week. Do we need to request it, or can you request to have Aptum here at that meeting? A representative, they didn't come 2 weeks ago because the weather was bad, okay?
Check the weather report next week.
Yeah.
I will request
I'm making a
it.
formal request for us to have
I will
someone from
convey that
organization here.
request and strongly insist.
Thank you.
And they can attend our money committee meeting if they can't attend on Wednesday. So they get 2 days to
All
check
right.
the weather. Any other questions?
So travel trailers, group sites at Rebecca is about 253, give or take. But moving on to the FEMA trailers, as Earl mentioned, they have 5 leased in. FEMA's, let's see, so far they've done the pre-placement interviews. They've interviewed roughly 2,400, a little over 2,400 people. They have determined that so far, they have 2,400 people slotted for the interviews. So far, they've approved a little over 1,100 people for their housing program, and they have 5 leased in with 18 that have been delivered. FEMA is also looking at several group sites, commercial sites, meaning existing mobile home parks. Right now, the only one that they've started placing mobile homes in is Carriage Cove. There's 22 locations, but they do have a number of other potential sites for commercial parks, so placing mobile homes in existing mobile home parks. And then with regards to the Rebecca Plantation site, they're looking at 147 mobile homes. If you ask me when they project having that ready, you wouldn't believe me, but it's April. April of 2021, y'all. Just in time for the next hurricane season, 2022. Just in time for the next hurricane season.
Mr. Dirk Guidry?
Chris, can you have, see if y'all can maybe get energy down here too to answer some questions about all these power hookups? Because personally myself, I've been waiting 4 weeks to get electricity hooked up to a building. So if you could get them in here so they could at least explain to us why they're not moving fast enough. And I'm hearing about some of these FEMA trailers too that also, they've been waiting a week. And that's all they're missing for is to move in because of electricity.
Right.
I mean, that's a disgrace if they can't just come and put a meter in and hook up some wires on a temporary pole, and people are sitting, and this trailer sitting here waiting a week for energy. That's a disgrace, And Energy hasn't done a great, fantastic job in Terrebonne Parish. I'll tell you that. I'll be the first one to say that, You can't get in touch with anybody with the electric company. So if you could get somebody here, I'd like to talk to them. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Harding?
Yeah, you mentioned these sites with private companies that we're going to have the trailers placed up on there. Believe it or not, I've had several people that have property, commercial property, trailer parks and stuff like that. I didn't know the answer. I'm glad to come up tonight. How would a person go about doing that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and the same is true for the state. So if you have property, whether you want to offer it to FEMA or for consideration or the state, those same phone numbers that you call for the programs as a survivor, same number, right? So for the state, that's 844-268-0301. I don't think that there's a way you could do that online. And for FEMA, the number is 1-800-621-3362 or 1-800-621-FEMA. They do have a pretty substantial list, but of the existing mobile home park sites and stuff. But vacant land, for new group sites, I think is something that they're certainly could use assistance on determining where those are. Yeah, so that's what I would recommend that somebody do.
Mr. Harding, did you have something?
No, that's it.
Ms. Domingue?
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you as always. This is completely unacceptable, and not by you, and not by us, and not by the parish whatsoever. But this process is completely unacceptable. And so who we really need to be in here is our legislators, and we need our senators, and we need our congressmen, and we need those people in here, because those are the people that are going to go to Washington, and they're going to go to the state, and they're going to say, this is absolutely unacceptable, and that's the people that we've put in office to fight for us while we're fighting for the people of Terrebonne Parish. This process it's completely unacceptable, and I know we all are upset about it, we're all angry about it, and we're the ones that have to, once again, speak to these people on a daily basis and tell them, no, you can't come home. No, I don't know when you're going to get a trailer. There's nothing that I can do for you except pray for you. So that's really what we need to do moving forward, because this process, I have no idea what the federal government is doing right now, but they're definitely not helping Terrebonne Parish out. And so I would like the people of Terrebonne Parish to know that we are fighting for you, and you are fighting for them, and Mr. Dove is fighting for them, but it's completely out of our hands.
Yeah, I know administration, and I know Earl, we've been today, after we heard that information, we're certainly lining up several of our representatives, delegates to participate in the next call with FEMA so they can hear that for themselves and respond accordingly. Earl was I was a little more gracious. I think Earl let him have it today. So give it to Earl for that one. But.
Good job, Earl.
Anything else, Mr. Pulaski? All right, seeing
Okay.
nothing else, thank you very much for that report.
Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Hughes? All right, moving along. Item F, resolution authorizing the parish president to sign a change order agreement with Wilco Marsh Buggies and Drag Lines Incorporated to complete the construction of the LA Safe Living Mitigation Terraces north of Lake Boudreaux. Moved by Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. Item G, resolution ratifying the appointment of the architect Houston J. Lered Jr. to provide architectural services for the Head Start HVAC renovations project and authorizing execution of an architectural agreement for these services. Moved by Mr. John Amity.
Second.
Seconded Ms. Jessica Domingue. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. Item H, resolution concurring with parish administration to approve a quote received from the rentals of floats for the 2021 Christmas parade from Houma Floats Sales and Rentals LLC. Move Mr. Dirk Guidry, second Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, Mr. Trosclair.
Question is, and maybe Candace can answer, I don't need to come out. Okay, sorry about that. Maybe Candace can answer this, or I'm not sure if anybody else here. I see Ann Pico's not here. But why would the parish be approving $40,000 for floats when we only using 3 or 4? Well, 2 for the council, 1 for the parish president.
So the way that it's set up for the Christmas parade, we approve the rental of the floats. We pay the company for all of the floats. The citizens that decide that they want to ride on the float then reimburse us. They'll pay us a deposit and a ride fee to cover the cost of the floats.
Okay, my question, I figured that's what would happen. But my question now is, okay, if you look at this thing, this was all done, like at the beginning of the year.
Mhm.
So, with the event that just happened, are we gonna have enough people riding the amount of floats that we are
Yes, sir.
committed to?
Yes, sir. I got an email from Ms. Ann Pico this week or last week. We have everybody that had paid their deposits is still wanting to ride. There is one float that didn't want to, but somebody else has stepped up and made a donation.
Okay, and that money goes back directly to our general fund where we took this money from?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, once again, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Item I, resolution introducing an ordinance to amend Section 21-30A and Section 21-31 of Chapter 21, Article 2 of the Parish Code of Ordinances to include Houma Heights Park among the list of parish parks, and calling a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, December 1st, 2021 at 6:30 p.m.
Move.
We have a motion by Ms. Domingue, seconded by Mr. Amity. We do have a speaker card on this. Mr. Jonathan Foray.
Jonathan Foray, 8358 Main Street. So I'm here in support of this, and of course I can go to the next meeting and say the same thing. We have had a surge in criminal activity in the cultural district that we are trying to find creative ways to address, and this ordinance would be one way that we'll be able to address it, because it would not allow people in this area after dark. We have had lots of prostitution taking place, and this is under the twin spans on the east side of Main Street. Drug dealing, prostitution, theft, indecent exposure. There was also a homeless person who went into the McDonald Children's Home girls' dorm. I sit on the board of that organization. Mr. Kevin Champagne, who's in the audience, is the executive director of that organization. This was a man who I'm assuming had mental health issues, who walked into the girls' dorm, and the attendants there, called HPD, and the man was removed. HPD, Chief Coleman, Chris Pulaski, Ms. Domingue have all been wonderful to work with in trying to figure out creative ways that we can address these issues. The woman who was charged with indecent exposure because she was urinating in broad daylight under the twin spans, she had 2 warrants for her arrest already, but nothing could be done with that because we don't have a functioning jail currently. And so I was informed that a lot of these folks with these type of misdemeanor cases are just sort of being turned back onto the street. And they're continuing to make these offenses in the cultural district in particular. I guess one of the things that I'm here and asking about is what's the plan to address the issue of incarceration if there are warrants for people's arrest and they're misdemeanors. So obviously the felonies, I've been told, you commit a felony and then that person, I believe, goes to St. Mary Parish and they're taken care of there. But and it's my understanding, we may be without a facility for a year and a half, maybe even longer. I feel like we should have something in place to be able to handle those type of folks so that there are consequences and they're not able to continue these type of infractions.
And that's probably a whole nother discussion, and we probably need something we need to put down on our agenda and discuss, definitely.
So we don't know if there's a plan or not to address
That's something we can pull the sheriff in and we'll put on our agenda. Ms. Domingue?
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate you being here, and Kevin's here as well from the McDonald Children's Home. We did have that meeting, and we're trying to be more proactive in this area to deter some of that. And when those incidents you discussed, they're actually happening in broad daylight.
Yeah.
So this is not things that are happening at night. This is things that are happening in front of children.
Yes.
Just the fact that someone walked into the children's home, it's unbelievable that those things are even happening. And this has increased since the hurricane. And so I'm in full support of creating this zone. And thank you, Chris, for getting this done, Chris Pulaski, for getting this done. And we're going to continue to do more work in that area as well, so that we can deter some of that crime. But absolutely, I encourage this council, let's look into what are the next step and what are we going to do next with that. So thank you so much for coming, and I look forward to working with you guys on moving this area forward.
Thank you, Mr. Foray. Mr. Michel.
Yeah, one question that I initially had, and I'm just going to put it out rhetorically. Why wouldn't we be looking at all of our parks to see if we needed to update this ordinance and with more than just one park? But that's, this is already here, I don't know. But the second question that I have is regarding the public urination. Are there facilities at all on that park?
No.
Can we put some portalets or something? Because,
I would rather, I would advise against that, because then you would have the prostitution taking place in a portalet versus in people's trucks that are parked there. I just don't, and so it's the park is currently, the plans are being developed. DOTD recently did the survey in that area to put the walking path. So that's going to be the first part that takes place there. The other issue that we have is that vehicles drive under that area a lot, and we're concerned that they're going to drive over the walking path, and then that's going to get all broken up. So again, working with Chris to figure out creative ways to deter people from driving into that area, even where it's a no trespassing zone currently, so they shouldn't legally be there. But again, HPD can sort of tell these people to leave or you're trespassing, but it's very difficult to have any teeth in anything right now.
and I mean, this is a multiple layer problem.
Absolutely.
But I don't think we need to ignore the layer that if somebody has to go to the restroom, we need to maybe find a place for them to go.
Yeah.
Instead of just kind of booting them out. But and I see where you're coming from, and it needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
But I think we need to look at solving that problem for those citizens as well. Thank you.
Mr. Harding.
Yeah, Mr. Foray, is that your neighborhood?
Yes, sir, it is.
You live in an area?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then. And I'm kind of like Mr. Michel here. Visit me in my neighborhood. But the thing I want this across the board, because there have been several times that I've actually, and I feel your pain, because that's why I'm going so much with Mr. Michel, because I have some of the same problems, and I try to address those issues. I think the problems are perhaps more personnel, more cameras, other things that actually deter crime. So not just in your area. I'm looking at it in my area too. So, you know what I mean, not just your area. So we want to take care of everything across the board, you know what I mean? And we should find funding for that. But, not just your area, because I got problems in mine too. So, you know what I mean, I'm saying to everybody that's involved, if you take care of Mr. Forey's area, the stuff I've been asking for in my area, I want the same results.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Navy.
No, I'm just okay. But anyway, I agree with what Carl's just said, and I agree definitely with Mr. Jeremy Michel just said, and something that Dirk has talked about a long time ago. That's why I'm laughing. The city park, I consider that to be a historical park. You and I have talked about that before, and that's his district. And I can tell you the same problem that you're talking about is going on there. So I totally agree that we all should address and look at all these parks, because that's something that's been. I mean, I can remember the first time when you in our first term, you talked about that and you was stern about that. So let's look at all of these parks. I don't know who's handling this, who's this project or whatever, but I think we need to address this, because all our parks, we have antiquated parks, okay? Our parks need to be restored. We're talking about restoration and a lot of other issues, but our parks that our kids actually play in, they're antiquated, they're old. They need upgrades. So, and Dirk, I appreciate that, because I remember when you brought that up. So there's something that needs to be addressed across the board in this parish. But thank you, man.
Ms. Domingue.
Yeah, and I might need Chris up here to answer this question, if that would be okay. But the reason we're doing this ordinance is because that actual area was not designated as a park. And so while we're working on this park, it wasn't necessarily designated at that time. So there was no ordinance to say you're not allowed to do these things in this area. And so we are creating this ordinance so that it can be designated as a park, just as Wright Avenue is a park, or Maple Avenue Park is a park. And we're now designating this as a park. And so that's why this is happening, not necessarily that we're saying one park is better than another park. We're just designating this as a park. That way, when these occurrences do happen, we can call HPD, and HPD can come out and say, you're not allowed to do these things in this area because it's now designated as a park, and because it's in such a close proximity to a children's home. We want to make sure that we don't have criminal activity right next door to a children's home. And so that was really why we did this. And Chris, am I correct on that? Okay, all right. So and that's why we're doing this. Just not necessarily that one area is better than another area. It's just we need to do that so that we can move forward. So
Absolutely.
thank
Yep.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks again, Mr. Forey. Item J, resolution giving notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to amend zoning map of the parish of Terrebonne so as to rezone from R1 single-family residential to R3 multi-family residential, Lot 16, Square 1, Barrowtown subdivision, 2620 Bryant Street, Houma, Louisiana, Houma, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana, Mabel Lyons applicant, and calling a public hearing on said matter for Wednesday, December 15th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Moved by Mr. Amity, seconded by Mr. Harding. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. Item K, introduce an ordinance amending the Terrebonne Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 26, Utilities, Article 2, Electricity Division 2, Service Rates and Charges, providing a fee therein for renewable resource net metering, and calling a public hearing on Wednesday, December 15th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Move Mr. Danny Babin. Seconded by Mr. Steve Trosclair. And Mr. Brown, can you explain, could you explain exactly what this is so people the general public understands what we're doing?
Ernest Brown, Utilities Director at 301 Plant Road. The state of Louisiana implemented a net metering law. So this ordinance is to reflect the guidelines that the law has followed. So if you want a solar panel on your home, we have to install a net meter. It's a bidirectional meter that measures the flow of consumption and what they generate. So this ordinance is just to reflect the net metering law that the Louisiana put in place.
So this would allow people who are able to generate more utilities than they use to be able to get credit for that?
Yes, sir.
So we're not raising anybody's rates.
No, sir.
We're actually giving people an opportunity to get credit for
use of their solar panels.
Thank you. I just
Yes,
wanted
sir.
people to understand that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Introduce an ordinance to amend the 2021 adopted operating budget, 5-year capital outlay budget, and budgeted positions of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items to provide for related matters. Animal shelter donations, $50,000. American Rescue Plan, $1.4 million. Adaptive Park Bathroom, $52,000. General Fund Grant, $1,000. Houma Downtown Development, $145,359. Section 8 Voucher Program, $13,250. Houma Downtown Development, $6,580. Section 8-0, add an Administrative Coordinator 1, Grade 104, and calling a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, December 1st, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Moved by Mr. John Amity, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is introduced. Item M, introduce an ordinance amending and supplementing ordinance number 9267, which created the North Terrebonne Parish Recreation District in accordance with LA Revised Statute 33:4562, EDSEC, regarding recreation districts, and call a public hearing on December 1st, 2021 at 6 p.m. Moved by Mr. Gerald Michel. Seconded by Mr. John Amity. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is introduced. Item N, resolution authorizing Parish President Gordon E. Dove to execute an agreement with Desire Line LLC for Hurricane Ida substantial damage data collection and determinations. Moved by Mr. Dirk Gidry, seconded by Mr. Steve Trosclair. We have discussion. Mr. Danny Babin.
Yeah, Chris, if you could come up just a second, please. In our packet, there was a mistake on the scoring for this particular process. I just want, and it's been corrected. You sent in the correction yesterday, so we had, because it looked like the person that received the bid had a lower score than somebody else. Is that correct?
Correct. So you all should have received in your mailbox and in your packets for tonight the corrected ranking and scoring sheet. And it should read from left to right in terms of the respondents: CSRS, ICF, Dynamic, and Desire Line. And I think the original one that was put in had Dynamic and Desire Line at the top switch. So the scoring, the numbers stayed the same. It was just we had an error and we submitted it with those two flip-flopped.
Because we had these discussions this afternoon, this is a new, and I'll let you, this is a new program by FEMA, correct? And this has to be completed by February 22nd, if I'm
February 25th.
25th. And are you completely satisfied that the process will be taken care of?
Yes, I am.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear, all right? This is, because this may affect us for years to come with CDBG money.
It's required because of our participation and continued participation in the NFIP program, the National Flood Insurance Program. Right. So we're required to perform this exercise and provide this data to FEMA in a timely manner.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
very much.
We have a motion and a second. Seeing no more discussion, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Resolution passes. Item O, discussion and possible action with regards to a request to authorize the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Waterworks District Number 1 to expend a per diem for its commissioners not to exceed $161 per meeting. Move Mr. Steve Trosclair, seconded Mr. Gerald Michel. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Mr. Danny Babin.
Yeah, it says to not to exceed $161 per meeting. Are we going to set it, or is the water district going to set that? They presently have $60 a meeting. So is this a request to go from 60 to 161, or somewhere in between?
We have Mr. Mike Sobear. Could you answer that?
Good evening, Mike Sobear, General Manager, Consolidated Waterworks, 8814 Main Street. The Board of Commissioners in their October meeting took advantage of Act 290 passed by the Louisiana State Legislature, both Senate and House of Representatives, which allowed waterworks districts commissioners to receive up to but not in excess of the per diem rate given to the representatives themselves, which at that time was $161. And so that's where the number came from. Right. That's in there. That was a, like I said, it's in the House bill, or the House bill that became Act 290 has specifically that the per diem not exceed that given to the legislators.
Yeah, and I understand that, but what are they asking for? To go to the maximum?
I would think, yes, sir.
Okay.
It is the board's intention to take advantage of what was granted to them by the state legislature.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I want people to understand this money does not come from Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government.
That is
This comes
correct.
from the Waterworks.
Consolidated Waterworks District
From the
Number
sale
1
of
operating
bottled water.
budget. That's
Okay.
right. We collect no taxes. We collect no millages. We strictly fee for service. We buy water. We process it. We sell it. That's how we pay our bills.
But if the legislature would have said that we want to go from $60 to $50 rather than from 60 to 161, there may have been a different
I'd be here
reaction.
today telling
Yeah.
you that instead of what's on that resolution that was passed.
I personally have a problem going from 60 to 161. I don't have a problem with increasing it, but to go jump it that much is a lot. I mean, and you know, Mike, you're not.
Oh, I know
talking
that.
about
Yeah,
that.
I'm, like I said,
It's not
you
that
know
I don't
why I'm
think
here. I
anybody's
work for
worth
the
it.
waterworks.
Planning Commission, I think, makes $40 a meeting, okay? Levy Board makes maybe $110, $115 a meeting, okay? And, I mean, I just wanted to get that out.
Sure.
So fellow council members could
And,
maybe come up with a number.
and Mr. Babin, before we get any farther, our legal counsel maybe can answer the question, is it within our power to approve this, or is it within our power to set a different amount?
Yes, the statute says that you may give them a per diem increase, but you're gonna set the amount. So when you may do it, it also says that statute refers to the legislative statute, which is 24, I believe, 13, which adopts the federal government's per diem rate for, I believe it's for, as I read the statutes, the per diem given to federal employees. So I don't know, that they have to use the federal government's rate. The state legislature has adopted the federal government's rate, and for the waterworks district, they adopted the same thing that the state legislature adopts, which is the federal government rate. What I don't know is, and I'd asked Mr. Norman to give it to me, I told him to go look it up, is to see what the federal rate is.
It's $168
So
right now.
right now, okay, so I take,
For Baton Rouge, it's $155 for those areas outside of the metropolitan areas of New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Alexandria.
okay, and I take Mr. Sobert, and he got that either from Mr. Norman or y'all look at. So I asked Mr. Norman to give me that right in today. He called me today, and I asked him to provide that. I did not get it, and so I presume that what he is saying is correct, that the maximum rate is 160, and ultimately the statute says you may do it, so you're going to set the rate.
Are you finished, Mr. Babin?
In other words, it says you can go up to that amount. It doesn't say you have to.
Right.
You can't exceed that amount. So you're gonna have to, they're asking you to give them the same rate as the legislature.
Well, they're actually asking for
161.
The way the resolution was written at that time.
And that's the way the resolution. So y'all gonna have to decide whether or not y'all gonna approve that or not, or another rate.
Ms. Domingue,
Any further questions?
anybody have any questions for Mr. Hebert? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Domingue.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Sobert, for being here. I appreciate it, and we've talked about this.
Sure.
Is this, so this is not Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government's money?
Not
This
at all,
is-
no ma'am.
This is the waterworks money,
It's
correct?
Consolidated Waterworks money.
Okay, and you guys have done a fantastic job getting the water
Thank you.
back on.
Thank you.
You know, you talked up here a couple weeks
Mm-hmm.
ago about the work that you guys have done and how hard you guys worked. And I personally think that we as a council should not impose our opinions on what you guys should or should not get as far as per diem. And so if you're asking for it, I think that we absolutely should give it to you.
Thank you
And so
very
I
much.
support this, sir. I don't think that's anything out of the realm of what other waterworks are getting or
Correct.
receiving. And so personally, I think that I'm going to let you spend your money how you want to spend it.
Thank you.
And so I support you on this, and that's all I have to say, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Harding.
Nope.
Go ahead, Mr. Hebert.
Excuse me, one additional caveat, it cannot exceed 24 regular meetings in a year and 12 special meetings. So whenever you make your motion, just put that it has to be in accordance with the state statute, that they cannot have more than 24 regular meetings, no more than 12 special meetings. To receive this per diem, they can meet as much as they want, but to receive this per diem.
We normally average a little less than 24 because Martin Luther King, we don't have a meeting then, this particular year coming January 1st. So, you know, and special meetings, I don't think we have 3 a year. So, but anyway, that's correct.
That's it. Mr. Harding?
For those out there that sits on the boards and then actually it comes about out of our district and stuff like that, Miss Mike, you do a great
Wilbur
job.
Thomas, yeah.
And we spoke, and I'd rather frank with you. You know what I mean? I look at the people that go out there do the work, but we have increments that we actually have and pay scales that we have. And the key word that came out your mouth, much as I want to support it, and it is y'all money, advantage. So, you know what I mean, just because we have it there, we don't necessarily have to put it there.
I agree.
Because we open, not only that, we look at all these rest of these boards right here, you know what I mean? And I can't place no importance on over one board over another, you know what I mean, because you follow what I'm saying? But
Okay, everybody's
yeah.
entitled to their own opinion.
Yeah, and so therefore, you know what I mean, you know my position on that, and I just want to say, you know what I mean, as we come in forward.
I respect your opinion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We come to some type of agreement.
Mr. Michel.
Okay, first of all, I would like to say, of course, we have an obligation to impose our opinion. That's what we're doing here. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to approve it, okay? That being said, we got to remember, these guys, and, you know, you take it on a board-by-board basis, okay? But these guys don't just, sure, it's going to be $160 a meeting, okay? But that's not all they do is go to meetings. They do stuff, it's like us, okay? We get paid so much, but y'all know how much we do, okay? But these guys, these are the guys, my guy is the guy I call when there's a situation with the water board. And he addresses it. He goes out to the places. That's why we have these guys that are appointed by each individual councilman. And just for the record, the resolution states not to exceed $161. So it could be less, but they're voting on it. So it'll be $161, okay? But you know, I don't have a problem with these guys getting $161. How long has it been since it's been increased?
Well, the funny thing is, if you take a 3% raise since the last raise they had, which was 30 years ago, it comes out to $145.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is far overdue.
And before that, it was 40 years when it was $30.
So I mean, I just think this is
whatever the
far
numbers
overdue, and I think that that board and Mr. Sober have the information. They know if it's affordable. They know if it's worthwhile, and so while I certainly have every right to my opinion on this council, my opinion is that I'm going to yield to what you think and to what these commissioners appear in my eyes to do, and I'm going to support this 100%
Thank you.
to the max. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Babin.
Yeah, Mike, do the people on the board also get mileage?
I don't think so, Mr. Babin. I think there may be one who lives far away, but I really don't know.
Yeah,
I work for them, they don't work for me, so I don't really know.
My displeasure with
No, I
this
understand
is
that.
not
I got
against
you. I know
against
that.
you, naturally, we talk a good bit, and the board members,
Yep.
okay? I'm just looking at the other, I agree with Gerald that, and maybe disagree a little bit with Ms. Domingue, that we do have an opinion because it comes before us, okay? What I really wish, it's your money, it's your board, I wish it didn't have to come before us.
Well, but by
But
charter,
I understand
they
by
would,
charter that it does.
okay,
But-
they were
but-
created that way.
And I understand that, and it's created that way for a particular reason.
Mm-hmm.
But then it looks like we willing to give
Yeah.
a whole bunch, or we are not willing to give it.
I got you.
And that's the politics of it all. But that's why we make the big bucks of it.
That's right.
Okay, you know.
That's right.
But in any event, I think there's some more lights out. Huh?
Okay, Mr. Amity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
What about my gas?
In regards to the other boards, I think they should do what this other guy did and approached his state rep and got his state rep to pass this bill. If the levy board or the port commission or any one of the other boards that are in this parish, I think they haggled this guy enough that he gave in. The bill was passed by Representative Chuck Owens. So in reference to them, you know, the other boards may want to do that and don't shout foul. Somebody did due diligence and got something out of the deal by petitioning hard. In reference to your board, and what Mr. Babin was saying concerning, you know, we wish it wouldn't have to, but the charter does say it comes to us. And like I told you in our conversation, in those situations, it's almost just a pass-through for us. And if your guys have vetted it and you can afford it, and that's what you want to do, then I support it as well.
Thank you.
You know, we all have our thoughts, our opinions on it, and I just want to back the water board and what they do.
Thank
The person that represents me on there is against it. And we
She
talked.
voted against it, that's correct.
And I told Ms. Chatnier, I said, well, you know, when I look at this situation, the majority of that board voted to do this, and I'm going to support them in doing the same thing. It's not necessarily what I would do, but it's what they want to do. And thank you for coming up
Thank
here
you. Happy to
taking
do
the
it.
shots.
And, you know, my opinion, of course, if Mr. Hebert came up here and said, we don't set the amount, then I think amount wouldn't even be an issue. But, you know, Mr. Hebert says we set an amount here or there, so now we have to look at it as not whether the raise is warranted or not. We now have to look at, is the amount warranted? Now, I know we say it doesn't come from taxpayers, but taxpayers pay water bills. And so in essence, you know, if you ask somebody, would they rather a 25-cent cheaper water bill or would they rather their commissioner make $161, they would choose the 25 cents every day. And so, you know, they pay for it, no doubt. And I was honest with you. They make $60 now. You know, if I look at an employee and they're getting an adjustment, you know, if you go from 60 to 120, that's doubling it, you know, and I was okay with that. But if I'm approving 160, I just, you know, just for the fact that, you know, I accepted this council job with what the council job gets paid. You know, I mean, that's what you know, if we want to raise the council position, we'll raise it for the future people who come after me. You know, I'm not going to approve mine because I accepted it at this price.
Yep. I understand.
You know, and so that is where what I told you I stand, and that's where I stand today. And so if we're approving $161, you know, that's not something I can do, but, you know, I'm just one of this board. So,
I got you.
thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Oh, Mr. Michel.
I just wanted to point out that this council happens to make the maximum that the state allows.
And,
Oh, very interesting.
and also, this council didn't approve that. We didn't vote on that. I didn't. Oh, well. Hey, but you also did it for your, did you do that for the next council? Did you so happen to get reelected because people thought you did a good job?
Why don't y'all have this on y'all, man? Let's get out of here. Okay?
But they just
Hold on.
Hungry. You know, I'm gonna go home.
Hold on, go ahead,
They
Mr.
just
Guidry.
mentioned something else about going on to the next
Yeah.
people. Well, when me, Mr. Babin, and Mr. Davy approved we approved our own raise. With the way that it goes, and it rotates back and forth where you don't change out the whole board at one time, you can't do that, you know?
Correct. But,
Okay, Mr. Babin.
wait, I just want to clarify one thing that you said. We didn't vote us a raise. We voted the next council and the next parish president a raise. We stood the chance of not running or not getting reelected, okay?
Well, I
So
knew
we
I
didn't-
was gonna win,
we-
Mr.
we
Bowden.
didn't- We didn't directly,
Darn,
we didn't directly
darn.
we didn't directly give ourselves a
Mr.
raise.
President.
I want the people in the audience, I mean, and watching, well, hold on, Mr. Hebert. I have the floor right now. I just want everybody to know, we did not give ourselves a raise, okay? We gave, the parish president prior to that was making $75,000 a year, and we gave a raise for 4 years, the average salary of the sheriff, the assessor, and the clerk of courts. And we raised the council salary from, what, 12,000 to whatever we make right now. So, but that did not go into effect until 4 years down the line. So let's make sure we get that straight, all right?
Go ahead,
I
Mr.
just
Hebert.
wanted to tell you a point of order. There's no motion on the floor, and you've been debating this. Somebody needs to make the
I don't
motion
think-
in debate.
We did, we had a motion and a second.
Somebody made the motion?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't-
We're in discussion. Any more discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Nay. I show 2 nays. All right, moving along, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Orton. Thank y'all. Thank you.
Item 2, public wishing to address the council as per speaker cards. Mr. Wilford Joseph?
Once again, my name is Wilfred Joseph. I live at 102 Octavia Street in Shreveport, Louisiana. I had a few issues. One was the streets in my neighborhood, the streets. At one point, they used to spray some, I don't know, it was Roundup or whatever, on the ditches, right? And so the deterioration over years, when you kill the grass, the rocks fall in the ditch. We have a lot of people in the community, their mailboxes is almost in the ditch. So when I tried to send a picture to Cory, I'm in his district, of the mail lady or the mail person putting mail in the mailbox, and they're going to be in the ditch. There's people living on Ingram Street on one side of the street. Their houses, their homes are 2-3 feet away from the ditch. And the only resolution is to closing their ditches. I mean, you can't put the mailboxes in the road, right? So that's an issue. I don't know how to, because I'd rather be in obscurity, right? I live in obscurity. I'd rather live that way. But these issues need to be addressed. I don't know the protocol. I don't know what, I talked to Cory about it a few times. But, the only resolution is to get these ditches closed up. And the community is not that big. There's only 3 short streets there, one in the back. And so that's the only resolution I can say. If you all can come up with something different, I'll be willing to, hear it. But so that's one issue that we need looked at. Like I said, I don't know the protocol to getting that done. I don't know how to get the funding done. Cory may even know. I don't know. But that's something we need to look at into our community as a community. Another thing is we live in a residential community, and there's a company that's moved back there, Blue and Fence Company, I think it is called. And they, we had a truck come in there the other night. There's a 110-ton weight limit on one of the streets. So I would infer that all the streets is 10 ton. I don't know. The 10-ton sign is newer. It's on a speed limit sign. The speed limit sign was put there in January 27th, 1978. But it's weathered more than the weight sign, right, than the tonnage sign. So that leads me to believe the tonnage sign was put after January 27th, 1998. So we had a truck coming there, was about 15 tons, 30,000 pounds. They come in there, the guy should have come to find out later, he should have went to the trucking stop, and he's supposed to unload the containers that they had in there and then bring them in. But we live in a residential community, and we talked to the owner. I talked to the owner with him and Cory on the phone, and he's saying that, well, I paid so much for the property. Well, I know how much he paid for the property because I put in a bid on the property. But the thing is, you're buying property. I know there's no zoning laws from what I understand. I don't know. But you're in a residential neighborhood and you're trying to tell me you have a commercial business. Why don't you go in a commercial district if you want to do that? We have an ISO. They have piles of cement piles up there. It's awful. It's awful. And so if they're going to come in here with these trucks, I can't stop them. But the 10-ton sign.
Motion to extend, Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hold on a second. Second, Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Any opposed?
So the truck
Go ahead and
came
wrap it
in,
up,
and he
Mr.
ran in
Joseph.
the ditch. He backed in the ditch is what he did. Tore up the ditch. One of the residents there, one of the neighbors had just put a driveway there. So I don't know how we rectify that. Does the council handle that? Does the company handle that? Does the trucking company handle that? But the ditch, there's no water can flow through the ditch now the way the ditch is. If we get a hard rain, it's going to flood back there. So that's something that we need to address. I don't know the protocol. Like I say, once again, I don't know the protocol to do that. And I would like to say one more thing, and you can all just, I'll try and be as brief as possible. We have a sewer system there, right? We have a sewer system there, and at one point, there was work being done on the sewer system because it had overflowed. And so they was trying to find a leak, so they was pushing, I don't know, smoke or whatever to try and find where the leak was. They thought it had a leak. As residents, we never found out what was the resolution. And one of the concerns we had, I worked in the oil field for 33 years, so I know if you have raw sewage, there's possible poison gas there. If you push it, because the smoke was coming through the pipes of the homes the way they did it. We never found out what was the resolution to what they was trying to find. So as a resident, those are things we need to know. The sewer system, we pay sewer bill, right? We pay every month with our water bill, we pay sewage. But if I'm watering my lawn, or if I'm washing my car, there's no way for you to know how much water I'm using going through the sewer system, but I'm getting a charge as if that water is going through the sewer system, right? I don't know how you all go about determining how much sewer bill, how much water is going through the sewer system, you know. But the problem is, you know, if there's something wrong with the sewer system, I mean, things happen, I mean, we understand that, but we should at least as residents know what happened, what was the result, how was it resolved. We still don't know. We still don't know. That's in Levittown and Johnson Ridge. Those sewer systems are, I mean, we don't know how they maintain, but they both had overflowing of sewage in those sewer systems. So, you know, I don't know what's the answer. All I can do is give the complaint.
Well, first of all, I think you've made us aware of this too, and I know Mr. Mike Toops is in the audience. Hopefully he can get you some answers from administration, and Mr. Harding, I know, wants to say a few things.
Yeah, in reference to the sewage, I think I sent Mr. Houma the picture, and I was traveling in Johnson Ridge, and so it looked like it looks like an overflowing toilet. You know what I mean? Then I've actually put in a request for something new in the Johnson Ridge area, in that area right over there. That's budget concerns that we're probably going through right now. It has been a request of mine. But, you know, I can make the request, but, you know what I mean, I usually leave my billy club at home, so I can make the request, and the request has been made going on the second year as it come in right now. I spoke with Mr. Pulaski in reference to the tonnage. We did some research to see where we had any ordinances in reference to that company that's back there on Octavia Street. Of course, I gave you the text message today because I spoke with David Rome Monday night. He didn't get the information back to me until today. I text you while I was setting up here, so if you want me to put it on the agenda or look even further in there to create any ordinances on your behalf. Originally, it started out with Mr. Babin, who knows the gentleman that owns the business there. He started out there to try to get some type of dialogue where we can have some type of resolve to the matter. When I spoke with you and Mike on the phone, whatever ordinances that was, I gave you the results of the findings of Public Works Director. Of course, he didn't say they had a tonnage sign on there. So after getting the phone call, getting that message, relaying the message to you, my intent was to talk to the Public Works Director and said he didn't find anything on the books. But then you're saying it has tonnage.
I sent you a picture of the tonnage sign on, you know, how the weight on
in due time, you know what I mean, saying here in front of you and with my colleagues and people that are watching that I will have a talk.
And I live on the back street, but the people in the front street tell me that was a 5-ton that was changed to a 10-ton. And if you look at the sign, I sent you the picture, the weathering of the speed limit sign is older than the weathering of the weight sign. And the speed limit sign was put there on January 27th because it's written on the back of the sign, 1998.
Yeah, and as for the ditches, you know what I mean, we've actually gone through it. When I went back there, going back toward the end, going toward the end of the subdivision. That is a drainage problem, and they have some small ditches back there.
So what are we going to do about the truck that ran in the ditch that practically destroyed the
Mr. Harding is going to work with you. It's not on our agenda, so but you have made us aware, and thank you so much for coming.
All right, okay. Like I said, I don't know the protocol, so I just come and, you know, express myself. Thank you.
The protocol is you have 3 minutes to address the council and share any information that you want to share concerning parish government with us, and then after that, we can take it up at a future meeting, put it on the agenda, discuss it, or maybe the council offline can do things.
Okay,
so that's what it's here for. Thank you. Mr. Floyd Bergeron wants to speak about issues on Kelly Drive.
Floyd Bergeron, 201 Kelly Drive. I live on the corner of Kelly and McCoy. I'm going to have to just make this like and tell a little story. Front part of our street's in decent condition. The back part of the street's shot. Nobody. They said it would never be fixed. So my wife and I were sitting outside and we flagged down a parish vehicle. Chairman got out and she said, look, she said, we got this problem over here on the corner. And right at the catch basin on each side of our mailbox, He looked at that, he said, oh, this probably could be serious. He said, I'm going to send somebody and look at it. So lo and behold, the next day, here comes an X-ray truck, people with picks, shovels, cameras, robots, worked a half a day. Guy come told me, culvert's all broken underneath. And we could hear it caving in. After a good hard rain, it would cave in, so we take care of it. We didn't say nothing, we didn't ask for nothing. So time passed, got the COVID deal, got the hurricane. Last Monday, guy with a construction company, Boudreaux, pulls up from Chacahua. So what y'all gonna do? We said, we're gonna fix all this up. Get a white paint. Said, we're gonna tear this up right here, all to the corner, fix it up real nice. That's good. Said, we're gonna replace the jars. Fine. So Wednesday morning, all kind of equipment shows up. Jackhammers, trailers, roustabout, this and that. They start pounding. And finally, the foreman comes over and shuts them down. What's the matter? He said, waiting on some more orders. So, okay. So he comes back about 2 hours later. Well, we're not going to pave all this. We're just going to knock out a strip over here and clean the culverts out, change them out. So they start hammering again. Dug a bunch of dirt out, cleaned out one side, started to do the culverts out. He comes back and said, wait a minute. We're not going to change the culverts. We're going to put some tar paper on them. They did the same thing to the other side. Didn't do anything all day long. Then he comes over there with a truckload of limestone. Now, my street had been cleaned pretty good since the hurricane. No dust flying, no nothing. Dumped the limestone down that Wednesday afternoon. Kind of packed it down a little bit. Well, front comes through that night, wind started blowing straight out the north. And I asked the foreman, I said, well, what y'all going to do about this? Well, he said, we can't do nothing until they decide who's going to pay for it. So, trucks passed, the black trailers, dualists from Texas, Oklahoma, limestone dust blowing right straight to my house. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, nothing but dust all over my house. And I got a fairly new car, dust all over it. Man, they passing through that like a bat out of hell. And of course, I got a brand new four-way stop sign that y'all put in for me. Thank you. But they don't stop. So anyhow, Monday, everything is all tore up. They got limestone, sand all over the place. And I live at an intersection. You got to come down Kelly and take a right on McCoy to get out of the subdivision. I got on the phone on the call Monday, and you told me not to say any names. I made a call. Man was running errands. Asked to talk to his secretary. She was unavailable. I made another phone call. Conference call. Well, describe to me what's your problem. And I told her.
Hold on. Motion to extend by Mr. Danny Babin, seconded Mr. Gerald Michelle. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Go ahead, Mr. Floyd.
Thank you. I explained to the lady exactly what it was, what the problem was, what the intersection was, and I'll pass it on. Today is Wednesday. Nobody called me. I got limestone crap all over the place on the clean street. So that's what I'm passing on to y'all. Now, you mean to tell me a big Terrebonne Parish, good earth, this and that, they can't find somebody to do a little job and say they know who's going to pay for it right out of the offset and do the job and complete it that day. So I got trash all over the side street right now. So this is where I stand. And hopefully nobody else has to go through this like me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Sorry you have to go through that. Mr. Paul Laperouse, concerning the courthouse.
I got frozen in one position. Wait, no. Good evening, gentlemen. Paul Laperouse. I'm an attorney. Live on 129 Presqu'île Isle, formerly in Chauvin. We have reopened 3 of 5 courtrooms. The two that remain closed are the two courtrooms that are in the real courthouse. That's Division C, Juan Pickett's on the 3rd floor, and Division D, David Arsenault's on the 2nd floor, the big, nice, beautiful courtroom. Now, after not being allowed to get into the courthouse, I got in there Monday morning and did go into both of those courtrooms. Juan Pickett's courtroom, Division C, the top, the small one upstairs on the 3rd floor. There's a patch of paint missing from the ceiling in that courtroom, about the size of one of these screens here. White paint gone, you can see the plaster. Plaster's still there. As a matter of fact, Monica Chauvin, she's the court reporter, her sweater is still on the back of her chair. It's been there since before the hurricane. Not a speck of anything on it. There is nothing wrong with this courtroom. The lights are on. The air conditioner's working. The power is on the entire building. There are no selective switches. There's nothing happening in it. We can't go into it. We can't use it. But there's nothing wrong with it. The same thing with the big courtroom on the 2nd floor. That's David Arsenault's courtroom. 24-foot ceiling. There are, in one spot, about 12 Celotex tiles missing. They were, so they will be cleaned out, on the ceiling. There are maybe just a few tiles nearby that are dropping a little bit, like, okay, they're delaminated, unfastened. They're still up there. Everything else is functioning in the courtroom. There's nothing wrong. The air conditioner's working, the electricity's on, and we're not allowed to use the courtroom. So, why? The ceiling, the roof, is there a problem with leaks in the roof? Blue tarps all over the place. They're tarping everything else. We can tarp the top of that courthouse just as well. And I'll ask you to consider this too, gentlemen. We have 569 prisoners spread out throughout the state because our jail we can't use it. We've had a 10-month delay. Wait, no, two and a half months, more or less, 9 months. 9 week, delay. In courtroom proceedings. Some of these people are sitting in jail that should be on the street. And they're in jail because of the delay in our court proceedings. Now, we can justify a little bit of that based upon shutdowns caused by Ida, but we're beyond that now. We've been well beyond that. We need to get all 5 of our courtrooms in operation so we can get these people processed and out of jail and their civil business taken care of. Thank you. I'm done. Any questions? Any statements?
Thank you, Mr. LaPerouse, for saying here, and I think we're going to be getting some more information from our building guy in some of the reports, and I think it'll illuminate some of the things that.
All right, and it's a talk. Everybody's talking about it, who's in and around the courthouse. There is just nothing being done. All right, the courtroom's closed. We can't get into it. We can't use it, but there's no remediation. Zero. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Mr. Jonathan Foray. Something a little positive. wants to speak about relief efforts done by the Helio Foundation.
Jonathan, 48358 Main Street. So I am the president of the Helio Foundation, and we have raised over $700,000 in private donations and through other foundations to be able to provide relief efforts to our communities. We started probably 3 days after the storm providing relief to our folks, and one of the programs that we're working on right now is called Float the Boat. And we're paying to have commercial fishing vessels pumped out and operable again. We're also helping to pay for crab traps, trawl nets, those types of things that people have lost in the storm. We are working with TITA on their temporary housing program, and we have also helped to pay for the electrical installation for some of those campers. And so the things that Chris was talking about, it's really it is a big problem because we're facing that as well. So just wanted to share that information with you guys that we are doing good work in our communities. So thank you guys.
Mr. Dirk Guidry.
Jonathan, I want to personally thank you for what you're doing for these fishermen down the bayou. I mean, it's a big help. A lot of these people don't have insurance. They don't have a lot of monies, and just getting this boat floating, that makes a big deal to them. Once you get it floating, they're going back to work.
Yep.
So, and I mean, buying crab traps and taking care of our people. Hey, thank you for what you do with the Helio Foundation.
Yep.
Mr. John Amity.
Yeah, Mr. Forey, again, like Dirk said, I want to thank you and your organization for what they're doing. If an individual wants to donate to that cause, how would they go about doing that?
They can find us on bayoufund.org, and it's a GoFundMe account, and they can donate there.
Bayoufund.org.
Yes, sir.
And again, thank all your people, because it's in times like this that you really see the cream of the crop rise and do something. And you know how slow government moves, so you guys are filling that gap, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ms. Domingue.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm sorry, I had a little scratch on my leg and it started bleeding. So, thank you once again so much for what you guys are doing. And I really wish Matt could have been here tonight. And I hope that next week you can come back for when Matt
Sure.
does his presentation.
Yeah.
Because it's unbelievable. And I actually went to a police jury meeting on Monday, and that's why I had to miss our committee meeting on Monday. But the council members that I met from other areas are recognizing what we're doing here and what you guys are doing. And you guys actually helped some of the residents over there in St. Charles
Yeah.
Parish as well.
Yeah.
And so it's getting attention, it's getting national attention, it's, attention around the state. And so you're not just helping in Terrebonne, you're helping all over. And so keep doing what you're doing. I definitely support you. We support you, and hopefully we get to see you next week again. And hopefully, you guys keep it up. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Danny Babin.
Yeah, Jonathan, I want to thank you, like Dirk and John said, to help the seafood industry. I mean, I've been part of the seafood industry for the last 37 years, I think. I just want the people out there to know that organizations like yours, and there's a number of other organizations out there doing work in Terrebonne Parish and the surrounding parishes as well, that where government can't take the lead, these organizations are doing that. And there's a lot of money that's being put out in this community by donors that are really, really helping out. And I can attest to something that's going on in Grand Kaya. I mean, we're working and getting people back in homes just by helping them fix their homes up, okay? Mm-hmm. They can't wait on trailers. There may be 10 people living in 2 rooms. Well, this group is going out and making 4 rooms, so those 10 people are now living in 4 rooms. So it's not a new home, but yet it lets them maintain their dignity. They can stay on their property. But the main thing I want to get out is your group is doing an excellent job, and there are a number of others out there. So if people in the community want to participate in that, there's a lot of places that we can donate money to that really give a lot of help to this parish. So again, thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Moving along, item 3, committee reports, Budget and Finance Committee, Mr. John Amity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee held on November 8th, 2021, and I have no public hearings.
Moved, Mr. John Amity, second, Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Committee is, minutes are approved. Item 4, appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions to the Downtown Development District. 3 expiring terms on November 1st, 2021, 1 representing each of the following: 2 representing the Terrebonne Parish Council, 1 representing the Chamber of Commerce. Ms. Juana Woodard, representing the Chamber of Commerce, expresses her interest in being reappointed. Ms. Sandra Corbett, representing the Council, expresses her interest in being reappointed. Mr. James A. Lecomte, representing the Council, expresses his wish in being reappointed. Motion to open, close, and reappoint by Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Ms. Jessica Domingue. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item B, Houma Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. 3 expiring terms: December 31st, 2021, 2 representing civic nonprofit organizations and 1 representing the Houma Terrebonne Regional Military Museum. Ms. Andre Buque Casey, representing the Houma Terrebonne Regional Military Museum, expresses her interest in being reappointed. We have a motion by Mr. Michel, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item C, Children and Youth Services Board, 2 terms expiring on November 1st, 2021, 1 representing the City Court, 1 representing the Office of the District Public Defender, 32nd Judicial District Court. Ms. Cara Plazos, representing the Office of the District Public Defender, 32nd JDC, expresses her interest in being reappointed. Motion, Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item 5, vacancies to various boards, committees, and commissions. We have the Veterans Memorial District, 1 unexpired term due to resignation, 1 expiring term on September 17th, 2021, representing the Vietnam Veterans of America. Recreation District number 2-3, 1 unexpired term due to resignation. Recreation District 3A, 1 expired term and 1 unexpired term due to a resignation. Recreation District number 6, 1 expiring term. Recreation District number 7, 1 expiring term on October 24th, 2021. Recreation District number 10, 1 expiring term on December 13th, 2021. Bayou Blue Fire Protection District, 1 expired term. Terrebonne Parish Tree Board, 1 vacancy due to a resignation. Children and Youth Services Board, 1 expiring term on November 1st, 2021, 1 representing City Court. TIDA, 2 expiring terms on September 9th, 2021, 1 representing each of the following: Terrebonne Parish Council, Houma Terrebonne Chamber of Commerce. Coastal Zone Management and Restoration, 3 expiring terms on October 31st, 2021, 1 representing the public, 1 representing recreational fishing, and 1 representing property owners. Houma Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, we have 2 expiring terms on December 31st, 2021, both representing civic nonprofit organizations. And the Planning Commission, there is 1 expiring term on November 1st, 2021. The Municipal Civil Service Board has 2 expiring terms on November 29th, 2021, and Hospital Service District Number 1 Board has 1 vacancy due to a resignation. Announcements, council members? Mr. Babin?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all of the veterans out there and my fellow veterans up here for service to this country. It's there's no place like America. Thank you.
Any other announcements? I do want to mention that we will have meetings next week instead of 2 weeks because of the Thanksgiving holiday, and we're also beginning our full sets of committees that will take place on Monday, followed by the council meeting on Wednesday, and in December we'll also be on a different schedule. Monthly engineers reports? As per Mr. Dirk Gidry, second Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion to adjourn, Gerald Michel. Seconded by Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor say aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.